y'all are having a wonderful summer. I'd like to call this, gosh, is it already July 17th? This July 17th TDC meeting to order. And I hope y'all we had a month off, Danny, so you didn't miss out on much. I want to welcome Mayor Danny Saraki. He's new to the TDC board. He's taking Julie Brzezowski's term and finishing that out. So I don't know if you know everybody, so if you don't mind, can we start down with Phil and go around so that the mayor can meet everybody? And I do believe we will, when we're done, have to make a vote to let Mayor Rector join us virtually. So Phil, if you want to start.
Phil Henderson, Starlight Cruises, South Pasadena, Madeira Beach, and Clearwater Beach.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to meet you. Tricia Rodriguez with the Traffic Expo Tours and the Clearwater Ferry.
Good morning, Dave Gaddis, delegate of the Big C and mayor of Bel Air Beach.
Good morning, Mike Williams, Innisbrook Resort.
Good morning, Copley Gertis, St. Petersburg City Council Vice Chair in District 1.
Amanda Coffey, Managing Assistant County Attorney. Nice to meet you.
Ryan Loack, President CEO, Visit St. Pete Clearwater.
Russ Kimball, Sheraton Sankey, Clearwater Beach.
Good morning, Mayor. Welcome to the TDC. I'm Chuck Prather, the Birchwood, St. Petersburg.
Good morning, Clyde Smith, Billmar Beach Resort and Treasure Island. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Saraki, the mayor of the city of Wilkes-Barre. I am humbled and honored to be here, and I personally look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you so much for this great educational opportunity.
Okay, and I don't know if Bruce, you are on. I can see you on the screen.
Yes.
I hope you're having a great time. Bruce is at the RNC. I'm sure he's having a wonderful time with that huge crowd. So I would need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to let Bruce attend virtually. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, welcome to the meeting, Mayor. And I'm sure you heard Mayor Saraki has joined us as well. He's the Mayor's Council designate. Okay, wonderful.
Good to have him here. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go on and look for the minutes from the last meeting in May. Is there any questions or changes? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that passes. Now, we do have some folks here for public comment. I don't have cards. Do we have cards? Okay, I know they're coming. So what I'm going to say is if you have something to talk about that's not on the agenda, we're going to start with that public comment first. If you're here to speak on a specific agenda item, I'll ask you to wait until that agenda item is up, and then we'll have public comment after that presentation. Okay? So when they're ready. And while we're waiting, anybody have any wonderful summer? Doreen, it's good to see you here. And we'll introduce you to Mayor Saraki. He just joined Julie Brzezowski's spot. Okay. So, well, this one's elite funding, and they're both elite funding. Both the comment cards that I have are for elite funding. Elite funding is 5C, so when we get to 5C, we'll call you up for public comment. Okay. So we'll move on to presentations. We've got marketing for summer fall budget amendment update. Steve?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Lots to cover on the marketing update this month, as we've missed a month. So let's dive in. What I want to talk about today, the incremental marketing budget that was approved back in May, our plans for the summer and fall, talk a little bit about 727 Day, a new product we're launching called Funshine Savings Passport, and then a little window into how we're planning for fiscal 2025. So jumping into the budget increase, as you all know, the BCC approved an additional $6 million for advertising back in May. And so when we look at those funds, we've try to figure out where best to spend that money. As you know, I'm a big believer in data, so we've been looking at where we can get the most bang for our buck out of this money. So the 3 areas of focus for the fall and late summer are in-state in Florida, a fall campaign in the Northeast and Midwest, and a Greater Tampa Bay campaign, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. So why are we picking these areas? So first off, Florida and Georgia, Atlanta, but southern Georgia, make up almost a third of our summer and fall visitors. So this is a critically important market for us. So that's one of the reasons why we want to focus on that. And our message here is very simple: escape to the beach this summer and fall. Weather's hot, best place to be is the beach. Plus we've got our arts and culture and natural beauty. They're all just a short drive away. You'll see more and more our media plans are combined, so you won't be seeing traditional and digital, it's all together. So we've got TV, which is both cable and connected TVs. We've got radio, which is both broadcast and streaming. We've got out of home, which is also connected to digital banners. We've got print, and we've got website, and of course, social. Then out of market, about 25% of our visitors are from the Northeast and Midwest. So one of the things that this additional money allows us to do is add more of a national presence in that area. Is this me? Am I doing that? No, that's hopefully not me. I am not doing any of this.
No, they're doing that in the back.
Right, let's go back.
We have wizards back there
There's
that control everything.
Yeah. Okay, and now my little clicker is not doing anything.
Pete, we need to go to the out-of-state
Wizard in
fly
the back,
market.
if you could go back a slide and...
There you go.
There we go, thank you. We're also adding a lot of presence in New York City. That's been our biggest market for years. We have not been there since COVID. So this money allows us to be back in New York. And in fact, yesterday we were just looking at the plans for some really exciting exposure in New York on subways and trains and things like that. It also allows us to increase our presence in some of our other key markets in the Midwest: Chicago, Indianapolis, Nashville, Cincinnati, and so on. And the focus here is really around this idea of fall colors. Everybody travels to see fall colors in the Northeast. We have our own spectacular fall colors down here, plus it's warmer and nicer. And again, you'll see a combined media plan for these. So the creative is very much focused on this fall idea, and if you're looking for spectacular fall colors, there's no need to travel to New Hampshire or Vermont. You can come here, you can get the colors and warm weather along America's best beaches. So we're going to showcase different parts of the destination and really change what people's perception are of traveling for the fall. So with that, let's see if we can play our re-edited TV spot.
Let's chase new colors this fall in St. Pete Clearwater. Let's sink our toes in sugar white sand and glide across emerald green water. Let's bask in a warm golden glow. Let's marvel at fiery reds, yellows, and oranges all season long. Let's discover a palette of fresh fall colors along America's best beaches in St. Pete Clearwater.
So that's the ad that will run on broadcast TV and connected TV. If you're watching the Olympics and you have Peacock, it will be on there. If you're in these markets, you'll see it on a lot of the local broadcast channels. And then to complement that, we have a series of print ads that play into the color message. So white sand, even after Labor Day, fall colors without the falling temperatures, emerald green water, your new favorite fall color, pack your swimsuit and peep at our fall colors. And then make other fall getaways green with envy, and head west for fall colors. This one is very much aimed at the local market, where we're encouraging people in Florida to travel west and enjoy our sunsets. And these are examples of how those are turned into outdoor billboards. So the local market is another key one, and this is new for us. We've not advertised here before. So when we look at the data and we see the number of people that have moved to what I'm calling the greater Tampa Bay area, the surrounding counties, Pasco, Manatee, Citrus, etc., there's hundreds of thousands of new residents. Those are people that need to know that America's best beaches are on their doorstep. And those are people that, if we can get them to come and spend a few days here, that will see a huge increase in our overnight stays. Already, this group makes up almost 20% of our summer fall visitors. So we think there's a huge opportunity here. So we've got a whole campaign that's going to be in everything from outdoor and TV to gas station pumps and web and social and all these sorts of things that will be starting in about a week or two to drive people from this sort of greater Tampa Bay area into our area. So you'll see more of that. The message is all about a few days and a short drive, and you can completely reinvigorate yourself, relax, rejuvenate. This is the place to do it. A few days in St. Pete Clearwater can really reset you. Now, 727 Day. Hopefully everybody is familiar with this concept. We are celebrating the 27th of July and highlighting Pinellas County residents and their role in tourism. This is part of our From Visitors with Love campaign, which I'm sure most people are aware is our celebration and education campaign on the importance of tourism in this area. And as part of that, we want to give back to our residents on 727 and help them celebrate. So we've been working with a local influencer, Alexia Gonzalez, and you'll see her in just a second. And she was out creating some content. She was doing some fun video pieces where she was asking locals what they knew about tourism, and she was rewarding them with gift cards and things like that. We also have developed a custom T-shirt for this. We worked with Creative Pinellas, and they put us in touch with a local artist named Ali Arnold, and she has created a custom 727 Day T-shirt with a pelican eating a grouper sandwich on the front and all of the destinations on the back. And so we're going to be handing this T-shirt out to the attendees at the Rays game on 727. To all through the county on a little activation that I'll show you in a second. And we have a table full of T-shirts over there. So on your way out, please collect your commemorative 727 T-shirt and wear it with pride. So here's Alexia.
My name is Alexia from the Gala Life. Let's go ask some locals fun questions for prizes and learn more about their love for this community. How many miles of beaches are there in Pinellas County? 5, 20, 35, 10, 20.
I'm gonna go with 35.
I'm gonna go 35.
It's gotta be 35.
Cheers.
So knowledgeable.
True or false? Pinellas County averages more than 361 days of sunshine per year. You got it right. We're the sunniest county in all of America. More people visited Pinellas County in 2023 than live in the state of Illinois full time. Is that true or false?
Yes!
I'm gonna say true.
True.
It's true. This is true. It was actually 15.8 million visitors, and that's actually larger than the whole Netherlands. Wow. Natalie, you just won some awesome prizes like a gift card that you can spend locally around St. Pete from our Visitors with Love to you.
That's amazing. I'm going to the bar.
Yes!
So we have a series of these videos. That's the first one that got released yesterday. You'll see more of these all through the next 2 weeks as we lead up to 727. So on that day, we are going to be touring the county, starting in Tarpon Springs at 7:27 a.m., and we are going to be highlighting deals that we've collected from all over the county. So we have 100+ savings for residents on that day. They range from saving $7.27 on admission at the Dali to $7.27 appetizers at Bongo's Beach Bar, margaritas, other drinks. There's all kinds. There's food, there's drinks, there's admission, there's all kinds of deals. So we have 727day.com. I encourage everybody to check out the site. And on there, you'll find ways to save money on 727, all under this umbrella of From Visitors with Love. We've partnered with our friends at the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to give away 727 tickets to the game on 727, where we'll also be giving away the T-shirt. And we are going to be driving all through the county. So we've got 3 stops on our little journey. We'll be in Tarpon Springs to kick it off. Then we're going to Safety Harbor. Then we're going to Seminole. And then we'll end at the Rays game. So all over the county on 727, highlighting the deals and how important tourism is to our community. One more savings concept that we're introducing a little bit later next month is called the Funshine Savings Passport. And this is a mobile app that the visitors will download when they come here, and it will present them with savings all across the county into admission, similar to the 727 idea, but this will be a 12-month program. So the idea here is to encourage people who are in one part of the county to go explore other parts. They'll be able to sort these deals based on where they're located, types of deals they're looking for. So again, it'll be restaurants, it'll be a buy one, get one app, or a free appetizer, or a free ice cream if you buy this. So it'll encourage people to try out new areas. This is going to be starting, promoting it later in August. You'll see it in all kinds of places, from our website to print ads. We're even going to have posters in some of the rest stop areas as you come into Pinellas County. And lastly, a little bit about where we are in our 2025 process. So all our ad agencies came into town in June, and we had a great 2-day kickoff meeting on how we're going to approach advertising for 2025. And our focus for this coming year is really going to be around this notion that St. Pete Clearwater are America's best beaches. And the reason for that is when you look at the data, 70 to 80% of people tell you the next vacation they would like to take is to the beach. So while we have a plethora of things beyond the beach is our major hook. And we need to continue to drive home the fact that we are the very best beaches in the country. And it's a claim that we can make. Our beaches are award-winning, so we're going to double down on that. But what I'm challenging our ad agencies to come up with is, how do you use the fact that we have amazing arts, culture, dining, nature? How do they help support the idea that that's why we are America's best beaches? It's not just that we've got amazing sand on Clearwater Beach, or it's not just that we've got a great beach bar at Paso Grill. It's that we've got the Dali Museum. We've got the Marine Aquarium. These are the things that make our area the best beaches. So you'll see more of this as it gets developed in the coming weeks. We're also looking at new opportunities, new locations. You saw us, we're going into New York. That will be a great test for the next couple of months to see how that advertising does. I expect that will work, and I expect us to be looking to do more things in that area. We're looking internationally to see where does it make sense, where are the flights coming from. We just had the new Aeromexico flight start to come into town. We have a new flight coming from Amsterdam again. So where does it make sense for us to advertise? Again, while we have a good budget, it's still limited. You can't reach everybody, so we've got to focus on where does it make the most sense. We also want to really leverage our major events, so things like the Grand Prix, things like Valspar. How do we take advantage of these nationally recognized events in our market to really help sell the destination? So we're having good conversations with those folks about not just having a tent on location, but how do we grow our presence in these places? And we really want to strive to be bold and creative with our ideas and executions. There are lots of beaches in Florida. We need to not only tell people that we are America's best, but we need to do it in a way that stands out and is noticed. We also have a marketing committee, which is kicking off next month. So we'll be bringing together 15 or so marketing leaders from all sorts of different groups. I know there's a lot of folks from your organizations are joining us in August. So that's going to help us really collaborate and make sure that we're hearing from everybody in the industry what's important to them and how to move forward. So lots and lots going on. Does anybody have any questions on that? I know it went through it pretty fast, though.
Phil.
Couple of things. It's great we're doing this now for the slower shoulder season. Are we going to get back into New York in a heavier way like we used to be in the winter and spring?
Substantial amount of money in New York.
Steve, could you talk into the microphone?
I'm sorry. Yes. So yes, we are spending a substantial amount of money in New York. We're actually distributing our Gulf to Bay magazine through the New York Times there this weekend. We'll have outdoor subways, Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit. We'll be on billboards there. We're really focused on the New York commuter rather than the New York tourist. So we're trying to get the people that are living and commuting into the city for work. So that's where we're focused on those areas.
Right. And the second thing on the Funshine Savings Passport, I assume you'll be able to provide us something like this ad to put on our own website?
Absolutely. Yep. There'll be a whole. We really want to encourage all of our partners to use that as the hook to promote the. There's a lot of talk right now about the cost of travel, the cost of this. This is one way to sort of go out and sort of present a story of you don't have to break the bank. If you come here and you're smart, look at the ways you can save money in different places.
Great. Thanks.
Any other questions? Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve, great presentation as always. The 727 promotion, very creative, very clever. Well done. I'm glad to see us focusing on locals as well and what we can do to drive them here during the summer and fall months. Very well done. Anxious to see the results.
We are too. I think it feels like a big opportunity, so fingers crossed that it works.
Chuck?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brilliant. When you first said fall colors, I didn't get it. And then when you looked at how creative these print spots were, I applaud you for that. But my question today is, we got $6 million extra in the budget. How much are we spending on this and 727? How much is reserved for later in the year? Are we looking at $6 million here?
So we are, without getting into all the weeds, not all of that $6 million has been allocated yet. There is some that we're holding back for some opportunities that are starting to present themselves where we think there's good opportunity. So, of that $6 million, probably $5 million is allocated at this point, maybe $4.5 to $5 million. So it's not all on those campaigns. 727 Day is not a huge investment. The biggest investment is, again, almost $1 million in New York City. So those are the sorts of numbers. Most of that $6 million is allocated, as I said, on we go back here. Let's see. It's this area, right? There's the New York DMA, Chicago, those are expensive markets. That's where a big chunk of the money is there and here.
And it's those markets in the summer-fall campaign, or those markets throughout the fiscal?
So this $6 million is for a summer-fall campaign between now and end of October. It's not going to quite line up with the fiscal year. Some of these placements go into October, but this is fiscal 2024 spending. So there will be an extension of this then in fiscal 25, starting in October.
Thank you. Very creative.
Thank you.
Clyde?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. First, thank you to the County Commission for the $6 million.
My name's Alexa.
That's great, and we'll look forward to seeing that put to use. Great on the fall colors. I think that's a terrific campaign. For the Sunshine Savings Passport, how will partners be able, when will we learn about how to participate with that?
So communication's going out now, and if your team hasn't heard about it, then just grab one of us at the end of this. Hopefully they have, somebody in your organization should have received emails about it. Our community team is doing active outreach right now. And then we have an online form, and we have a flyer that we can give you that just lays out the kinds of deals, how it works, and all that stuff.
Okay, Copley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve, thank you for the presentation. Just two quick things. I really like the passport idea. I would echo what Mike said about going after locals. When I saw that, I immediately went, that's going to make me travel throughout the county. It's going to let me take my kids places that I haven't taken them there, and it's going to drive me there because, frankly, I've been lazy and I just don't do it, right? I stay where I'm comfortable. And so I was automatically thinking about that just as you were giving us the presentation. So I thought it was very creative. I also was really happy to hear about pressing our partners to advertise in a way that our beaches are the best in America because of not just the beach, but because of everything that surrounds them. I think that line of thinking really is holistic, and I want our beaches are beautiful and we celebrate them all the time. But I totally agree with that line of thinking. Listen, we're on the water all the time, my family. To do it 2 or 3 days in a row is very difficult in this heat, and so you got to have other things to do, and that's what our destination offers. And so I really appreciate that line of thinking and looking kind of outside the box, and just very thankful for continuing to push and think differently. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any additional comments or questions? So I
Yeah,
do. I'm sorry about that, Mayor. You're not on the screen, so I can't see you. So just shout out.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I want to just what Copley just said. I think is really important that we use the 727 Day to really not just promote tourism in the county, but to use it as an opportunity to message the value of tourism to our county residents. So I'd love to, Brian, I'd love to work with your team just to get the city of Clearwater involved and promote it to our citizens. And I'm sure Mayor Saraki and the other mayors on the TDC and throughout the county would love to participate in promoting the event to our city residents as well.
Yep. We have been reaching out with all the chambers, so they're all aware of it, and so hopefully we'll get a lot of participation.
Yeah.
So any other comments or? So I like the idea that you mentioned showing the Grand Prix and Valspar. And I think if we incorporate the festivals that we do in some of our marketing, there's a lot of people that would that follow those kind of things. I know BMX brings in all over the world when they do their events. So so I do like the idea of pulling in future marketing some of those events that we sponsor.
Yep.
I think it's another avenue that can be a niche and draw very specific people to our area. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
So seeing no further, thank you. It was a really great presentation as always. But we're going to move on to
Don't forget your
capital
t-shirts.
funding. If Steve, well done. Capital funding with Kylie Diaz.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kylie Diaz, Vice President of Community Engagement, and I am here this morning to present our Capital Projects Funding Program 2024. Now, what I'm going to do today is very simple. I am just going to state who our applicants are, what the project is, and what they have applied for. We are very much still in the beginning, early stages of vetting these applications for eligibility. Once an applicant has been deemed eligible, they will be notified that they have moved on to the next part of the process, which is to go through our third-party crossroads and as well as staff review. So we're very much in the early stages of this, and I am very excited to go through these projects with you. First, I just want to remind everyone of the timeline. As I mentioned, we are very much still in that first bullet point there, where we are legal review, consulting company, and Pinellas County, just kind of overviewing these applications. Some of them are very substantial, and we are very much taking our time going through these applications. In August, the BCC will be reviewing any applications over $10 million. In our guidelines, it does state that any applications over $10 million first need consensual approval from the Board of County Commissioners. So if your application is over $10 million, that is will be the first step in the process for it, and that will happen in August. Then we're going from the TDC meeting in September, hopefully we'll be able to present to the TDC once all of those other steps happen. And this timeline is subject to change, so if we find ourselves needing some more time, we will let all of the applicants know. And then in October, ideally, we would love to present this to the Board of County Commissioners, given we have made it through those other steps in the process in a timely manner. Okay, I'm just going to go right down the line here and talk about these projects. The first project that we have that is applied is the Dunedin Museum. This is to restore 2 historical clocks within the clock tower that are part of the 100-year-old train station adjacent to the Pinellas Trail. They have requested $24,500. The next project is the Clearwater Beach Municipal Marina. This is repairing and upgraded the 165-slip marina with services tailored for tourists visiting Pinellas County. I know many of you are familiar with it, and they have requested $10 million. The next project is the Eddie C. Moore Complex. This is one of our applicants that has actually applied before, and this is a renovation project. It is a comprehensive initiative designed to enhance sports tourism through facility upgrades, and their request is $10 million. The next project is the Dr. Carter G. Woodson African American Museum. This is a new home for the Woodson Museum in the future gas plant district projected down in St. Petersburg, and that is for $10 million. Next up, we have the Florida Orchestra. That is a construction of a center for musical education and innovation within the Mahaffey Theater, including a rooftop event space. This request is for $9.5 million. Next up, we have Clearwater Marine Aquarium, and this is to remodel the oldest part of CMA's facility, the winter zone for incoming sea lions, improved otter habitat, and guest areas. This request is for $9.8 million. Next up is our only applicant over $10 million. This is for the Arts Center and Chihuly Collection. This is construction of a 5-story state-of-the-art facility and parking structure to enhance the center's capacity. And that is a new home as well. So that is for $15,170,660. And then our last and final project is the Palladium Theater. This is a renovation of an 800-seat hall, of the 800-seat hall of Palladium Theater, improved seating, sightlines, and acoustics for $2.5 million. Now, this was a very healthy cycle, and we did have 8 total requests, so those are 8 that I just went through. And the total number of all of those requests put together is close to $67 million, or $66,995,100. So just happy to present those projects today. We'll be keeping everyone updated as we move along through the process. Does anyone have any questions?
Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Woodson, going into the gas lamp district, Kylie, when will that start?
So the Woodson Museum, it's obviously we're waiting on the vote down there in St. Pete. So this is why we're still in the determining eligibility portion of the project. So that's why we're taking our time determining eligibility to find out, these projects what are committed to.
And if you want more specific, Councilmember Gertis can probably give you a little light on that.
Yeah, and the purpose of my question is, I'm fully in favor of it, but are we funding something today that may not be built 4 years down the road? And are we okay with allocating that money in the future?
And that is something that we're very much addressing internally, and we are speaking with the City of St. Pete as well. So these are all questions, and this is why we are still very much in the determining eligibility stage.
I would just add that the easy answer to that is no. The idea of this request, and if we were to give them, TDC and BCC were to give them $10 million with the community benefit that the Rays are willing to give them and the money they've raised so far, they could put shovel in the ground during phase 1, and this would open along with the stadium. And so they've got a letter of intent already with the Rays Hines group for the parcel that has been allocated to them. And so their hope and why they went in this round of funding and not 2 years from now was to put shovel in ground during phase 1 and open along with the stadium in 2028.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that comes up for a vote tomorrow with the St. Pete.
That's the first step. So we'll vote tomorrow. The county, I believe, is scheduled to vote July 30th, if I'm correct. So, I mean, pending any changes.
Pending any changes.
But as of right now, I think July 30th, and that would be the second half of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well said, Copley, thank you. And, part of the requirements of these projects is the shovel readiness and completion within 3 years. So that's all being taken into consideration.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit more specific, I believe the number they have right now is like 26 million between what they have from the Rays, what this allocation would give them, and what they have raised so far would put them above that number. They'd go to GMP and then go shovel ready in 2025.
Thank you all.
Any additional questions for Kylie? Ross?
Can you remind us the matching program, what these requests have to have, matching these requests and all? And then also I believe there's an obligation on the books or a couple on the books yet already, what the status is there?
If you're requesting for the matching status of each of these projects?
Well, just give us what the rules are so everybody knows how much has to match to what their request is.
Right. We do require for these projects that matching funds are there. They are available. So if you're requesting $9.5 million, you do have to have one-to-one matching funds for that money. And it does have to be stated and verified by your lawyers.
Okay. And I believe also the Dolly had an obligation or something we do there still on funds. Is that in prior commitments already?
We are currently in the process with the Dolly, almost to the finish line there, on their previous capital funding request that was sent through the line a few years back, and we're almost to the finish line with that project.
And that's the only other one we have
We also have the St. Pete Museum of History from our prior projects.
And the Phillies would come under it too?
To my knowledge, I don't have a request from the Phillies.
Or is that a different category?
The Phillies are not included in this, and we've had no discussions with them, and that will go through the county administrator.
Okay, but they're on the books already from prior, aren't they?
That has been paid off. That obligation has been paid off. So when you talk about Baycare or TD1 Bank facility, as well as there was a third one in there that's currently an allowable use in the tourist development plan. You'll recall a couple months ago at the joint meeting, we proposed some recommended revisions to the plan. There were three items in there that allowed you to obligate funds for those projects. Those are all off the books, and that's why we're recommending removing them from the tourist development plan.
Thank you for
Yes.
clarifying.
And then the Dolly and the St. Pete Museum of History are under our previous guidelines, projects that were approved. In the St. Pete Museum of History case, they actually requested more money, so we had to go back to the table to go back through their application and make sure they were still eligible for those additional funds. So all in process, all moving forward at the same time as this, so it's a very exciting time.
Any additional questions? Chuck?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see some folks in the audience who are representing some of these interests. Did they have cards where they were going to speak, or are they all on the next, which is elite events?
At this point, I have 3 cards to speak, and they are all elite funding.
Okay. So I'll go on with my question. We have almost $67 million here. What is our budget?
Well, we're actually determining the budget based on the total asked, and Brian might be able to speak a little bit more to that, but it seems like we're going to be determining that budget once we understand, because this is the first time we've held the cycle since 2017, so we, quite frankly, weren't sure how many projects were going to come forward, so.
Chuck, what I would say is that there is not a specific line item in the budget for capital funding 2024. I would say that there are approximately $115 million in reserves in capital funds at this point in time. And so that would be the maximum we would be having the budget to spend. Now, that accounts for everything, including beach nourishment, stadiums, other things that have been discussed. So there's not a specific line item. These will come from capital reserves.
Thank you. So you've got $67 million here. We mentioned, Russ, thank you, the Phillies paid off, yes, for that portion, but it was on our line item for future. It just was carried over for $40 million, which there's been numbers thrown out, 80 million. We don't even know what that number is, but that's a very large number coming up. Obviously, the raise is at the finish line here, so thank you, everybody, for their leadership on that. But $67 million plus the raise, plus the Phillies, plus some of these other rumors that we're talking about, it's a lot of money. And we have to run it like a business, so we can't spend more than we make. So I'm very cautious. Some of the projects, everything on here is worthy. I don't want anybody to come off my words thinking that I'm anti. I just can't quite see a few things like how does Dunedin Museum clock put heads in beds from a tourism standpoint. I'm sure it will be a beautiful renovation on the clock tower. There's certain projects I have questions on. So I don't know if this is the time or we're just going to absorb it all and then discuss this at a later point.
Yeah, the intent today was just, we have not met as a TDC since the application cycle closed, so we just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of the projects that have submitted applications, and you're more than welcome to bring up anything you want today, but this was more of just so you guys were aware of the projects that applied.
Okay, so there's, like I said, very worthwhile causes on here. We'll just use the Palladium Theater as an example. We've said we're going to support the arts more, and that, in my opinion, is one that's very much worth considering and discussing. it's a beautiful building, and they work very hard to promote that. So, but we should talk about each one of these after we've digested them. Thank you.
Okay, so we now have 2 comment cards, and we'll get to those. Phil, I'll have you go first, and then we'll get to our.
To kind of follow up on what Chuck was talking about, the first 3 look like they're just maintaining what's already there. But in fact, I'd like to encourage the staff when they're reviewing to consider the fact that if those went away, what we'd be losing. And by maintaining them and making them up to date and cleaner, it's probably going to attract more. I know the ADC Moore Complex will probably attract more tournaments and so forth if it's more up to date and modernized. So that can mean increase over what would have been. Clearwater Beach Marina is something that I look at that as like an amusement park where a tourist will come and maybe ride 1 or 2 things. And it's in pretty sad shape right now, so helping to renovate that and modernize it and make it a much more attractive facility is definitely going to help out increasing some tourism, but it's going to maintain a lot of what we have. And I'm not so sure about the clock, but it may fall in that same category. So I just wanted to encourage them to look at not only the increase in visitors, but also the maintenance of the visitors that are coming, and to allocate those funds on that basis. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
And I just wanted to really quickly expand a little bit on the budget in term. We do have a projected additional cycle in 2026. So if you're a project here that is deemed ineligible, you also can apply in the next cycle if you'd like to. But in regards to budget, we're also thinking about there's going to be another cycle as well. So some of these projects are actually paid over several years. It's not, I want everyone to understand that if you see that big number, it doesn't mean that it's all coming out of this budget this year. It means that, some of them will be paid over a series of years as well.
Councilmember Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll actually hold off for now. Thank you.
Okay. So if it's okay, we'll go to public comment. And first I have Paul with Palladium. It's good to see you. Come on up. And Paul, I need you to state your name and your address, and everyone gets 3 minutes. Do we have a timer? You have a timer. Everyone gets 3 minutes to talk. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm Paul Wilborn from the Palladium Theater at St. Petersburg College. I don't really have a lot to say. Our application was, we worked really hard on it, and we think we've got a good one. What I just want to let you know is that the state of Florida has funded us $1,850,000 over the last 2 cycles for this project. We were approved for $1 million in the current state budget. We've already had pledges, private pledges of $6 million. So this is a piece that's going to put this project together. The plans are already finished with the architects. So it's really exciting, but we're going to do this, and we have shown that we're raising a lot of private money around this, and it's going to be a really exciting project for St. Petersburg. And our clients at the Palladium come from all over Pinellas County. We have folks from Tarpon. Everybody comes. We're the affordable professional venue for our community. We were created to be this place that caters to our community arts organization. So it's a worthwhile cause. I think we've got a great story to tell, and our private donors are really stepping up to make this happen. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. And next we have the Florida Orchestra. Ignacio.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. This is Ignacio Barron.
Just a second, let Brian get this back on track. Do you need help?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, I wanted to take this moment to introduce myself. This is Ignacio Barron Viela, President and CEO with the Florida Orchestra. I'm a new member of the community, and I have met some of you in the last few weeks. I'm very excited to be part of the Florida Orchestra and this wonderful community. The orchestra has 56 years of history, and this is the first time the orchestra is really part of a capital funding application in partnership with the city of St. Petersburg and also the Mahaffey Theater. I'm really excited about the possibilities, the growth, the tremendous growth that we can bring. We have audiences all over the country and outside the state, and we know in the next 10 years we can really bring over 3 million people because of this project. So I like to kind of echo what it was said before with the objectives for 2025. I truly believe arts and culture are seen as reasons for the beaches of Clearwater area to be the best, and we want to be part of that journey. So I'm here to work with you to make sure that we are aligned on our objectives. And again, I want to make myself available for questions as you review the applications, and let you know that I'm here for any other comments or questions you might have. But again, just this to say this is very exciting for the arts and culture, for the orchestra, and we believe we can create huge economic impact by accomplishing this project together. Thank you.
So the rest of them that I have gotten are strictly elite funding, so those will be up next. Any other questions or discussion on the capital? Doreen?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to comment, and Brian, looking at you too, I think that for the council members, and some of us have been here longer than others, but I'm really encouraged by the team at VSPC, the oversight that they're giving on these applications and the guidelines that have been set up, and for the team to follow with, Kylie's leadership also. So I think that's really important that, it eventually will come to us, but all that's going to be vetted in advance. And I really appreciate that it's not all falling on our shoulders, that we have a team of professionals who are doing that behind the scenes, and will bring that forward. So thank you.
Thank you. And I agree, Kylie's team does a great job. Councilmember?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just bring up one thing. Paul, thanks for speaking. The city, just so you know, why we're all in the sunshine, not only has Palladium gotten state funding and private funding, but the city has also pledged to support them over the next 4 years during their design and construction phase at a minimum of $1 million, so it's $250,000 over 4 years. I suspect that things will happen and that number might go up a little bit, but the city is also in support of that project, and just wanted to make sure I brought that up as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any additional comments, questions? No.
I would just like to say I agree very much with the associates and all handling this and going through it thoroughly. It's not an easy job. We've been through it before ourselves, and I appreciate the new way we're doing it.
Chuck.
One additional comment or question, it's really for Brian. Kylie talked about the Eddie C. Moore complex. We're so focused on trying to enhance sports tourism in this market. It said they applied before. Did they apply and get and do a renovation, or is this the second ask because they didn't get passed?
I'm gonna look at Caleb out of the corner of my eye as I answer this question. We did provide funding for the current Eddie C. Moore facilities. I don't know which year that was and if they received all the funding, but we have funded those fields in the past with through the capital project program.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other? Okay. Well, and kudos to the staff. I know sometimes it's difficult decisions they have to make, but I think you all have very clear guidelines that help them on a lot of the work and decisions that they have to make. So we're going to move to C with elite fundings. And what I would like to do is give the presentation and then do public comment, and then we'll go on to discussion.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, if I could, before Craig gets started, and sorry to steal any of his thunder that he already may be going to speak to, but this year, I just want to acknowledge the team that we had in place to review these projects. This was a new guidelines, first time we did it, first time we put this in place, and we had more eyeballs on these projects than ever before. And as the direction of this board as well as the Board of County Commissioners, we're moving in a direction where we really focus on large-scale events. And so when we went through here, I got to tell you, there's some incredible events that we have in this destination. All of them that applied are really great events. But we were laser focused on specifically heads and beds and marketing opportunities of the destination provided by the event. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I'm really proud of the team and confident in their recommendations.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Madam Chair. Craig Campbell, Director of Community Engagement here at, excuse me, Visit St. Pete Clearwater. Excited to present our recommendations for Elite Event funding. It's the annual tradition. So let's jump into this. All right, overview. So wanted to show kind of the history of the program here just within the past 3 years since this fiscal year 22, where we had 20 applications and a total funding recommendation of $1 million. Well, we surpassed 50 applications this year for a total request close to $3 million. So to Brian's point, lots of tough conversations being had to stay within our $2 million budget. So we are coming forward today with 33 recommendations at $1.865 million. You should have a spreadsheet in front of you. It's a breakdown of our recommendations. So the 51 applications received, what we're recommending, basic information about the event, the attendance, the projected room nights, all that good stuff's found in that recommendation spreadsheet. So please keep that handy. We're not going to dive into that just yet. So keep that on standby. First, I wanted to dive into a bit of our review process. So the review committee, who was looking at these applications? As you can see from the breakdown here, we have an entirely new leadership team in place. So from Brian, Steve, and Kylie, from an executive level standpoint, Jason Latimer and Jessica from a PR and marketing standpoint. We had several new players in the mix here this year. So how we viewed things in the past may not necessarily be how we view things this year. And really the expertise on this committee is, never been greater. So really proud of the work that we put in. And we're not talking dozens of hours, we're talking hundreds of hours diving into these applications. And thank you to BVK as well, Carmen over here, for all their support in the media valuation standpoint. What were our priorities going through this process? Brian described it perfectly, really. Exposure and impacts, alignment with our out-of-market spending, and really confidence in methodology provided by these organizers. I did want to add just sort of a separate note here. We did host a public information webinar back on April 18th. There were 2 slides dedicated to how we were going to prioritize the review process. So we were very transparent in that, yes, we were going to be hypercritical of these applications, and it was going to be tougher than ever to receive funding, and we stayed true to that promise. How did we rate these applications? So we broke off into 3 subcommittees. There was one committee dedicated for data and history. So they're really jumping into attendance, room nights, economic impact, the methodology. That was a key measurement here in our confidence in what information was being provided to us. We had a marketing and sponsorship subcommittee, so they're really looking at the value of the marketing plans and the sponsorship proposals provided to us. And then a third committee really taking care of all the other considerations, the timing of the event, charitable contributions, everything you see on the slide there. And a quick note here as well, so for any event that we are recommending their full request, essentially they checked all of these boxes. They were, their applications were rock solid across the board, and if we were not recommending their full request, well, they were maybe short in a few areas. So just kind of keep that in mind. And now to the recommendations, back to, kind of full circle here, 51 total applications. We are recommending 33, excuse me, for funding. The recommended number is $1.865 million. Again, our budget is $2 million. Out of those 33 events, 21 we felt qualified at an elite event level. Again, there were some changes to the guidelines this year where We separated events to true elite events, ones that could demonstrate room night impact versus those that were more destination enhancements. So 21 out of those 33 events could demonstrate room nights. And then the remaining 12 events, those were your destination enhancement events this year, or this cycle, I should say. So on that note, we still have funding remaining for a second cycle, so $135,000. If the recommendations go forward, we would have that second cycle. We would launch that here later in the summer, early fall, hopefully September, October. But our goal is to move forward with that second cycle. And with that, that's my presentation, but excited to hear everyone's comments and feedback.
And I would just remind the TDC that this year, under the new guidelines, we are only bringing forth recommendations for the elite events. Those destination enhancements, we will do it at a staff level administratively. So we put them on there. We wanted to make sure you are aware of what those were. And they weren't just hanging out there, but we'll go ahead and handle those administratively. Today, we'll be asking for your recommendation on the true elite events.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to public comment first. So I've got Keith Overton. And again, I'm going to remind everybody to state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Keith Overton. My home address is 8039 Boca Ciega Drive, St. Pete Beach, Florida. I own OCC Roadhouse and Museum, which is a large-scale entertainment venue and restaurant in Clearwater, Florida. It's 10575 49th Street North. I was formerly the president and one of the principals at Tradewinds Resorts for 27 years. I only bring that up because the event that I'm addressing today started there back in 2017. St. Pete Bike Fest started there. I continue to own it. We moved it up to the new venue that I own in Pinellas Park. Many people here have had an opportunity to attend that. And our funding since 2017 now, for some reason, has been dropped as a recommendation from $75,000 to $50,000. So I looked at where we might have come up short, as Craig stated earlier, and on April 9th, just 3 months ago, the criteria for eligibility was 15,000 visitors and 4,500 room nights. So I go back and look at the economic study, the most recent one provided from Destination Analyst, which is the agency that represents the county. In that report, you'll see that we produced 31,240 visitors, 10,512 room nights. Both are double what the criteria is. $13 million in direct economic impact and $20 million in indirect economic impact. A 3.3 average length of stay, and the event generated $828,000 in bed tax impact. So I fail to see, with all due respect to Craig and the team, I fail to see where we came up short. We've more than doubled all of the criteria for the $75,000 that we've been getting. And I would say this, we don't make any money on this event. This event is a marketing effort for us. I spend $38,000 a year with Miles Media, who is a marketing agency that you're very familiar with, to market outside of the state of Florida and outside of Pinellas County to bring visitors here. We're lucky to break even. A $25,000 reduction basically means that I'm writing a check to underwrite this event. Now, I'm happy to do that, but I prefer not to lose money on these events and to try to at least get to break even. This is a huge hit to our impact, to our budget, and quite frankly, it makes us wonder whether we should continue forward. Now, the last thing I'll say is this. In 2017, we came forward seeking money at the same time as the Sugar Sands Festival in Treasure Island. Dave Downey and a couple of staff members came to us and said, look, is this going to be a conflict? You have these two events on the same weekend. And we got together with the leadership of that group and decided, no, it really did make an impact. And anecdotally, the next year, both of our attendance numbers went up materially because they were on the same weekend, and a lot of the crossover occurred. So I think, the loss of this event would also hurt the Sugar Sands Festival, which is, of course, approved for the $75,000. So I'll pause there, and please, if you have comments to my comments, I welcome them.
Thank you, Keith. Next, we're going to bring up Thomas Covington. And Keith, there's probably going to be a lot of discussion afterwards, so. Thomas Covington.
Madam Chair. I'm Thomas Covington from PowerButt P1, Director of Business Development there. First of all, I want to thank you guys for everything you do and all the support that you've given this event over the last few years. A special shout out to Craig and his team. Out of all the events that we do around the U.S., they're some of the best guys to work with, great communication, and yeah, it's a pleasure to work with this team. So I guess the main thing I want to mention today is we didn't receive the full amount of funding that we requested, which was $150,000, which we've received for the last several years. Instead, we received the suggestion of $100,000. And while I respect Craig and his team's suggestion, I just wanted to say, I don't know if everyone's aware, but Hurricane Idalia hit 2 days before our event started last year, which heavily impacted our attendance. Basically, we were under a lot of pressure to cancel the event completely, but to uphold our commitments, our television contracts, things like that, we went ahead with the event, even though we knew the attendance would be, severely hurt. So I have to assume the reason we didn't tick all the boxes is because of the attendance. We're probably half of what we projected initially. So I just didn't know if there was any exception that could be made because of the storm that hit last year. Going into this year, we've made some positive changes for the event to continue growing. We have a new date. We've moved it from Labor Day weekend off of the holiday weekend to October, the end of October. And we've also got live television coverage with MAV TV of the event, which we've never had before, along with our post-produced programs, which are broadcast internationally to around 100 different countries. So anyway, I'll leave it with that. Just want to request if there's any exception that could be made with the storm that hit last year. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Rick Kreisman. Mayor, it's good to see you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the council. Rick Kreisman, Shoemaker Advisors, 100 2nd Avenue South, St. Petersburg. I'm appearing here on behalf of the Grand Prix of Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Just want to thank you for all your support in the past and certainly appreciate the support as we head into this year with a race taking place on March 2nd. Just so you know, the race is moving this year from NBC to Fox Sports. And we expect even greater coverage than we had received from NBC. The race will also be covered in more than 220 markets in 140 countries around the world that will have the ability to watch this race and learn more about this incredible destination. So just here to answer any questions that you might have, but appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you all at the race again this coming March. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And next, we're going to go to Mike Schules with ReliaQuest.
Good morning, Mike Schulze with the ReliaQuest Bowl, actually. I live in Wesley Chapel. My work address is 4211 Boy Scout Boulevard in Tampa. And I am here representing the ReliaQuest Bowl. Really just to thank this body. We have worked with the St. Pete Visitors Bureau, VSCP, and this board for many, many years. We're celebrating our 39th year with the bowl game this coming December. We obviously put on Clearwater Beach Day, which has been a staple of our events calendar for over 35 years of the bowl game. We are a 501c3 not-for-profit. I just wanted to be here to thank you for your past support from over the years, support this year as well. Also, just provide a little bit of information because I know there's new faces on this board and with the Visit St. Pete Clearwater staff that have added a number of people as well. We are a major event. major bowl game, obviously, in college football, which is #2 sport in America. And again, the game is in Tampa. I know over the years there's been that sort of competition, so to speak. The game itself isn't in Pinellas County. Beach Day obviously is, but we have always worked very hard to include the marketing aspect of Pinellas County, the beaches, Clearwater, in all of our marketing efforts. Very much like Steve had mentioned earlier, you guys are, looking at major events to market, how you can expand on that, but also from the standpoint that, yes, in our case, people come for the game, but then what else can they do here, okay? And when you're coming from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Pennsylvania, for our game, the tens of thousands of people that come to the market every year, they want to go to the beach, okay? They want to see, they want the Florida experience, and so we really try and tap in on that, and we have produced millions and millions of dollars of economic impact for Pinellas County this year, every year, as well as Hillsborough County. So really is a great example of a region-wide impact, whether the game is in Pinellas County or in Tampa, in which case ours is, obviously. It's a great example of how a major event in the overall marketplace can really benefit everybody, and everybody wins. So I just wanted to point that out, and again, appreciate all the support that we have gotten from this body over the years, and we look forward to continuing. So thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Jeff Gao.
Good morning. Jeff Gao, City Commissioner, City of Dunedin, 1140 Mary Jane Lane, Dunedin, Florida. Born and raised in Dunedin, so it's a wonderful town. Y'all need to come visit. Real quickly, first I wanted to say thank you to you all for continuing to support our Dunedin Highland Games. It is a wonderful event. Many of you have attended. But my real ask here this morning is actually when you go through your second round on whether or not you're going to consider those applicants that didn't make it through the first round. And specifically, we had an application in for a Mardi Gras event. And I'm not real sure. I don't know the details of the application. I believe on the website for attendance, it has NA there, and we have attendance there annually of approximately 30,000. So I'm not sure what went wrong in our application, but if you allow those applications that failed in the first round, that will give Dunedin an opportunity to relook at that application and find out what went wrong and what might need to be corrected to be accepted in the second round. It's gone on for about 20 years, again, about 30,000 in attendance, and it's put on by all volunteers. And it's done just to market Dunedin. Nobody gets any funds from this. It goes right back into our community. And so I just really would appreciate any consideration to that event. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Frank Chevis.
My name is Frank Chevis. I'm here on behalf of Tampa Bay Charities and the Superboat race in Clearwater. And I want to thank Greg and his team for a great job. And we got 100% of the funding that we're entitled to. But I just want to let you guys know that when we started this Superboat race over 10 years ago, we got $100,000. This year, we got $75,000. And it just isn't enough. And so I got a little piece of paper here showing the comparison of 10 years ago, and of course, 2024 that's just ahead of us. And I'd like to pass that out and leave it with you, let you guys look at it, because I think all elite events might need a little bit more money. I don't think you've raised the bar up high enough. And these events do bring a lot of people here. Our event is, we passed all the hurdles that we're supposed to pass, but it just isn't enough. And this year, we finally got a TV, and I want to leave that letter. Craig, did you receive that yet? Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to leave that with all of you, and I'd like to thank you all for what a wonderful job you guys do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, that's all I have on public comment. So I'm going to entertain questions and discussions. Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of general observations and a question. You know, I look at these projected room nights that each of these events is claiming they generate. Brian, is that a number that is submitted by the applicant, or do we independently verify those numbers? And before you answer, the reason I ask, these are huge, huge room night numbers. And for those of us in the hotel industry, you look at that and you just have to shake your head and say, there's no way that these events generate, 50,000 room nights or 30,000 room nights or 20,000 room nights. Those are huge numbers. So we just need to be cognizant that they are inflated.
That is a great observation, and one of the things that, again, this was my first time going through this, and I was tasked with looking at the data, specifically the attendees and room nights. And part of that process was our confidence in the data that was provided. So one of the first things I noticed on applications were in many cases, a majority of cases, there were wide discrepancies in different numbers self-provided from the applicants. And so that's the numbers that you have on the projected attendees. The short answer is yes, that was provided by the event, but even within the application and what was provided to us and what was self-reported to companies that did economic impact surveys, those were wildly different in many cases. So that was something that we were very cognizant of, and it was reflected in the scores and our recommendations.
Okay, great. And then the back page, there's, gosh, I don't know what, 10, 11 companies here or events that we are not providing a funding recommendation for. Have we advised these events that they're not getting funds?
Yes, we have. Yeah, last Friday, excuse me, we did an all broadcast to all the organizers. We shared this spreadsheet with them, so everyone knew before the weekend.
Thanks, Craig. Yep. And then lastly, Brian, you and I had a conversation last week about the analysis and the scrutiny of what each event is doing on their own to promote, publicize, merchandise, and market their event. And I think that's a great new measure that we are looking at to determine, what are they doing to help themselves and not just rely on our funding. Several of the speakers this morning referenced writing their own check and self-funding these things, which is highly admirable and should be applauded. But I think for all of these events, looking at what they're doing to help themselves makes great sense. Thank you.
Hey, anybody? Chuck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to pick a few of them and discuss. I'll start with one of the ones that didn't get funded, and that's Shopapalooza 2024. Esther has come to this board over the last few years, even out of cycle, and made an individual appeal. And we saw the value, and we funded, but it looks like this year she's completely off. That is just such a large event in downtown St. Petersburg. So when we talk about the categories, I am not sure how many room nights it generates, as I'm not sure how many these truly generate, but regardless, attendees, she certainly does. It's a huge event, and it does have a huge economic impact in downtown St. Petersburg. So not trying to second guess you there, it's just I have to throw a question mark on that one. As far as, Keith Overton, thank you for coming today. That's another one that's been around for a long time. And that's one that I do believe brings a lot of folks in from out of the area, out of the state. It's so well attended, and those folks do stay. He can verify all those years at the Beach Hotel how he would fill it up with those attendees, and I'm sure they still go there. He's not affiliated with the hotel anymore, but so that was one where, like he said, it barely breaks even, and to take $25,000 out of his budget, it's to the point where it may break that event, and I would hate to see that long-standing tradition, Bike Fest, go away, because it brings so much from tourism into this market. I applaud Mayor Kreisman to take that Grand Prix. You know, obviously that and the Valspar are the two star jewels that we have every year in Pinellas County. Changing it to Fox next year is going to bring even more eyeballs on our community. So I just wanted to point that out. And even though he said it, I just want to put an exclamation point on that one. So lastly, it was really a question for Mike on the Bowl Beach Day. I don't know if, am I, Madam Chair, able to ask him directly a question, or do you want to direct it just to?
On the Bowl Beach Day?
Correct. And when Mike came up and gave a presentation.
Yeah, why don't you just ask the question? And
Okay,
we'll
I'll
see.
ask the question. So with that, I love the fact that we have an event in Tampa and we bring all those visitors over here from Tampa. Not that we don't love Tampa, but we love when those folks come over here and spend the day, spend the money, spend the night at our beach hotels. So I applaud that. I was just curious, would $75,000 being spent on that one event, where does the money go? I mean, what does it take to put on a beach day? Is some of that augmenting the overall budget over in Tampa, or do we take that $75,000 and truly spend it? I don't know what it costs to put on a beach day, so it got my attention. It's a lot of money for.
Well, wait just a second. Just a second. First off, you'd have to be at a microphone, but Craig may have the answer based
Craig
on the
may have the answer.
application.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
It's a mixture of sponsorship benefits and production costs. So yeah, a portion of the $75,000 would go towards producing the event and the expenses associated with bringing folks over from Tampa. So that's part of that $75,000, but then we receive robust marketing benefits as well, logo placements, activation opportunities at the stadium on game day, things of that nature. So yeah, it's a blend of all of that.
Very good answer, thank you.
Chuck, I'm going to add to that. I used to work that event for many years, and they'd host a Battle of the Bands on the beach, which takes a lot of law enforcement and barriers and stuff like that. There is a large cost to that Battle of the Bands that happens on the beach and on the tug of war and all the things that they do, that the schools compete. I believe the schools stay on the beach, so the schools with their band and the players, they all stay on the beach. So those are direct Pinellas County room nights. But the festival themselves that day that's on the beach is a pretty big deal with a lot of stuff going on, a lot of vendors, a lot more law enforcement. So it is, I would not be surprised if just the cost alone for the beach day would run that.
Heard. Thank you, Madam Chair. And
It's okay, I can actually just give you a number. This last year's event, just the beach day event itself cost us over $90,000. So just to give you an idea.
Thank you, Mike. And then just to conclude, we have a budget of $2 million, and I know how hard you guys worked to vet all of these applications. It's incredible to whittle it down to 33, but we do still have $100 and something thousand left. So some of these may be asterisks, I'll call them, for reconsideration. We've certainly done that in the past. There's a history of it where members of TDC will support something and you'll take it back, and maybe you fund it, maybe you don't, but I would encourage to push that budget we have it, we allocated it, let's spend it. It's a huge win for the folks that come to Pinellas County. It gives them something to do, and they go back home and they talk about whatever their interest was, a beach day, a bike fest, a shop-a-palooza. So I encourage to look back and try to finish that budget.
Thank you. Russ?
I agree with what Chuck just said. We still got a certain amount left. And if there's changes, and I'm sure that there could be in what was presented or what was on the paper originally, to ask staff to review it and to look at that second round and maybe move it up and take that consideration for what funds we have now to use, to review those different items that we've come up today. The beach days for the bowl, the OCC, the boat races, all those things, they're the right time of the year, and they really impact our hotels in all over the whole county for different parts of it. And I'd like to see us maybe look at it again for that part of it.
Clyde?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I would also question the room nights. I think they're really large. I wonder if Star Report could give us some insight on that. If the weekends these events happens, if they really escalate that much more than just a regular weekend. Then I'd just like to comment on the Bike Fest. I was on the committee for Sandy Innovations on Treasure Island at the time the Bike Fest started, and we were very concerned about competing events. We embraced it instead of fought it, and put up bike parking and advertised in bike magazines, saw great success from it. So we filled up the bike parking, in fact, during that event. So it definitely did bring people to both events. In fact, and then also just yesterday, we booked a very high-end wedding over that date that are there for the Bike Fest, but are going to have their wedding at Treasure Island at the Bilmar. So it definitely has great crossover for both events.
It's good to know. Any other, Mayor Gaddis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Craig, I'd like to commend you and your team for going through this. I know it was a daunting task, and I can see that sometimes it's difficult to say no. On the other hand, it's rewarding to say yes also. The only thing that I think is missing on this spreadsheet is the number of nights involved in an event. So I see projected attendees, and then I see projected room nights, but I don't actually see how many days the event runs. And so that may clear up some of the mystery about how you can have so many attendees and so few room nights. So if maybe the next time you might consider just adding one more column of how many days does the event last. Also, going back to the recommendation to lower the Bike Fest, I would like to echo Chuck's recommendations that we look at that again, because I think it is a very important event for our community. I would, if at all possible, I'd like to see them raised back up to the $75,000 level. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Phil?
Thank you. Explain the second round to me again. Is this second cycle is for 6 months from now for just events that were small that may appear in mid-year? Is that what it is? Or is it to relook at, okay, we didn't use all the budget, so let's go back and look at some of these that we didn't allocate fully?
Yeah, the original intent was not to relook at things. It was more so to give some of these smaller, maybe more like mom and pop type events who don't have their marketing plan yet for this year, and we're asking for information for next year. So we're giving them a little bit more kind of time to put all those details together and put a good case for funding together. So the initial intent was for that second cycle to be for the second half of the fiscal year, but there's some wiggle room there if we wanted to be a little bit more flexible.
And Mr. Henderson, what I would also add to that is I think the intent here is we can go and if there is perhaps an event that wasn't recommended for funding during this cycle, and it's late enough in the year that in October they could come back and apply again, that's something that we'd be willing to consider. But the intent is not to, let's fund a project today at a certain level and then come back in a few months and ask for additional funds for an event that was already funded. That's just the difference there.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought it was, but I had spoken to one of the applicants, and he said something about a $25,000 activation fee from the county. Is that?
I'm
You're
not sure
familiar
what
with
that's about. No.
Okay.
First I've heard of it.
All right, drop that. The boat races, the Clearwater Superboat race is, did they originally, I see they originally applied for $150,000. Did they have TV in their application, or they didn't have it? I see this letter that Frank just passed out saying they've just announced that they've got the TV, but was that in their original application saying they were anticipating that?
It was not.
Okay, so
Said
now that they
TBD.
have it, is that something to consider to bring them up some?
Defer to the group here.
I'm just, I don't know what people, let's discuss that some more, I guess, if anybody has any comments on that. I would think if they actually are going to be broadcasting, the numbers they're showing are higher than the St. Pete boat races, and they're getting the 150,000, I believe, or 100,000, no, 150. Not saying maybe to go all the way to 150, but perhaps some more, given the fact that they do have the requirement of the TV coverage now covered. And then the last thing, can you speak to the St. Pete Bike Fest? I know a couple others are concerned about that. Can you tell me why the decision was made to drop them down from 75 to 50?
Sure. Let me find it on my other massive spreadsheet here. So, perfect, thank you. I knew I numbered those for a reason. Okay, so to Keith's point earlier, the data is very solid for this event. So that application got a pretty decent score from a data standpoint. It was the marketing and sponsorship that we had more of a concern with. So out of 40 points that we allocated to marketing, that application received a 23 out of 40. So that really, dented that overall score.
So your overall score was that, but what specifically dropped?
Specifically, it was a brand alignment concern that we had. Sorry? 19? I found it. Yeah, no worries.
Mr. Henderson, I can also speak to the data side on that. Again, back to the different attendance figures and room nights figures. On this one, there was a large discrepancy between the figures that were provided in the economic impact survey. And so the figures that were produced in the economic impact survey, from when we gave it a score, we reduced the results, specifically the room nights, based on the self-reported attendees. They were 3 times the amount in the economic impact survey as they were in the application. So we divided the room nights that were provided in the economic impact survey by 3, so it fell short in the room nights there.
So I just wanted to explain, on marketing came up as one of the things. The marketing plan that was submitted for Bike Fest was just 2 local radio buys, totaling $16,000 in total. So that, when we look at how are we going to spread the word of Pinellas County and coming to visit, 2 local radio buys in this area is not going to drive people from out of town here. If there is more to the marketing plan than was submitted, that's a different story. But what was submitted were 2 local radio buys.
Okay, that's all I have. I just want to open it up for any more conversation about the powerboat races in Clearwater, since they now have the TV.
Okay. Mayor Rector, did you have comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, about the powerboat races. Clearwater in particular, just a couple things. I love, first, I love all these events, whether it's golf or music or whatever it is, and they're all fantastic. And they're all very important. And I'm happy to see that we are continuing to fund these events. I do want to talk about the offshore boat races in Clearwater because I think it's unique. We go back to the earlier report we had on marketing. One of the first things we said was, let us never forget that it's the beaches that draw folks to our county for tourism. And it's our beaches that drive most of the revenue that we're able to fund these events from. So for me, that event is unique because it's on the water and it takes place directly in front of the largest concentration of hotel rooms we have in the entire county. And so it's not just an opportunity for those folks filling those rooms to do on that weekend. To Mr. Henderson's point earlier, timing, the shoulder months, that's when we need to bring folks in to fill those. So the timing is great for that. And the second thing I think we saw with this Purina Dog Challenge that we had in Coachman Park in Clearwater, which is really successful, and it was broadcast nationally on NBC here in June. They positioned the competition where we had backdrops of Clearwater Beach and the Intercoastal and the water and just fantastic views, made Clearwater and as a beach destination look fantastic. That the staging of the event like these offshore nationals on the water, right in front of our very popular beach, that it's a unique opportunity for us to really promote not just Clearwater Beach, but the county. So it is weather sensitive, and I get that. They've had some years been more successful than others, depending upon what's rolling through during that time. But I would like to work with them to make sure that we're helping to. They already have some TV coverage. It's mainly regional. I'd like to see them get to the point where that's a national, in some way, whether it's one of the Peacock or one of the sports networks, that we get to that point. But even if it's not, with the coverage that they have had in the past and they're proposing this time, we get some fantastic coverage. Sometimes it's just a cut that makes, social media or whatever of something dramatic happening on the beach. That for me, that's unique. And I'd like to see them get at least as much as what we're giving the St. Petersburg Powerboat Grand Prix. And for those reasons, one, it's the timing of this event. It's in the shoulder months when we really need it. And more than anything, where it takes place. It takes place right in front of the hotel concentration that is a large part of driving our revenues for the entire TDC.
Any other comments, discussion? Chuck?
One last one for Brian. Historically, we've supported and funded the Christmas Light Festival at Tropicana Field, that company. I don't see that. Are we no longer sponsoring that or involved with that?
They did not apply.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Phil?
I don't know if it's appropriate to make a motion. I assume we're going to make a motion to accept whatever is on here. But before we do that, I'd like to move that we increase the Clearwater Super Bowl races to 100,000, given the fact that they do have TV coverage now.
Okay, we have a motion. I don't know if we got a second or if there's going to be
Second.
amendment.
I would like to second.
All right, so we have a second. Some more discussion. I see Trish, you have your microphone lit up.
Yes, and I was going to say before the second, the reason why I did second motion, it is with regard to this, because I did ask the question with regard to the biggest qualifying difference between the 150 level and the $75,000 level, and that was that, for example, the Sugar Sand Festival did not get it. Although they had the Kelly Kelly show, they had a lot of media coverage, it wasn't covered nationally during the event, and that was the biggest qualifying difference. And that is why this event, initially before this, did not qualify for that 150. So that's why I seconded that motion.
Okay. Mayor Saraki.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just have one comment. Craig and staff, great job on this. This is all new for me to the board. I just want to thank you again for your hard work and dedication to all these events in Pinellas County. And Madam Chair, I just wanted to say, unbelievable. Thank you.
Okay. Russ, I think I saw your hand up. And Chuck.
I suggested that we ask staff to review that second pass. We've handed it back to them to do it, and I think that we've heard our suggestions maybe, but I think there's 3 or 4 of them that need to be reviewed, and there may be some other late bloomers coming in for the balance of the funds, and I'd rather see it done that way. So I just think it's a better, more clean way. We rely on staff and the time they put into it, and I think that would be the way to do it, to work with the different sponsors that are here or not here today.
Chuck, and then Clyde.
Thank you, Madam. And I'm just going to echo Russ's comment. We are digesting this. You put a tremendous amount of work into it. We have comments. We've had comments today. I'd like to hopefully see you go digest those comments, and as opposed to voting on this as presented today, I'd like us to vote on it potentially next TDC meeting after you've heard our comments. Maybe you'll take them, maybe you won't, but that's what I'm hoping to see is another pass at it.
One of the things I would just bring up is some of these events they happen early. And so in order to get your recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, in order to get an agreement in place, because once we get approval on these, that's like then there's a lot of work that we've got to do as far as negotiating those agreements, getting those signed. So that would potentially jeopardize some of these early programs that are in, a lot of them are in like October.
Then I would make an amendment to the motion to take under advisement the handful of items that we brought up as potentially being re-examined, the Bike Fest being one of them. I would move to approve it as amended.
So we have a motion for an amendment to add Bike Fest. I want to be specific.
It's very good. Bike Fest.
So
I think what you want to do is do a separate motion for that, since that one's later. Well, I'm not sure, because we've got to decide. I think what Brian was saying is we have to pretty much decide today to move forward or not, so that the BCC can approve it in time for some of the early festivals. Doing it, making an amendment to it after it's been approved by the BCC, like he says, a lot of hoops to jump through, I guess. Is that what you're saying, Brian? Was the intent today to approve or disapprove the findings here?
Yes, and I think we need direction to take to the Board of County Commissioners. This will go to them in, I guess it likely wouldn't be August 13th. We may be able to hit August 13th, but we've got a extremely tight window.
Right.
And then it's in September already, and some of these events start in October, so that doesn't give us any time to get an agreement in place.
So I do have an amendment on the floor. I have not had a second to the amendment.
I would second the amendment.
You're going to second that, Clyde. So the amendment stands then to reconsider the funding for the Offshore Nationals and the Bike Fest. So that's the amended motion on the floor. I have several lights lit up. Clyde, you were next.
Yes, I was going to basically echo Chuck's comment. I would encourage Keith and his organization to present what more media things you do. Just from your look, it's obviously more than 2 radio buys, but they don't have that. So I would encourage you to do that so that we all feel good about that. But otherwise, I stand by the amendment.
Okay, I'm going to go over to Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian, do we have to push the decision today? Yes. Could we not kick this back to staff, as Russ suggested, and put a very quick turnaround date for them to come back with a second recommendation?
Can I?
So as not to delay the whole approval process?
Can I answer that with a question?
Of course.
Would it be all right with, I think, I hear loud and clear the board, and I guess from our perspective, we would prefer, from staff's perspective, that we hear you and give us a recommendation, and then we will go back with your recommendation, and if, work with the organizers, and if we're not able to get the information that we're looking for, we won't take that, we'll advise the Board of County Commissioners when we get to them. But I would suggest, give us a number, we'll go forward, we'll work it, and keep the process moving forward.
So you've got a number of motions on the table. Should we not combine those into one to say, look at these events? Yeah.
So the motion on the floor, as I understand it, and the maker of the motion and the maker of the amendment can correct me if I state this wrong. The maker of the original motion said that the offshore nationals should go to 100,000. Is that what I heard you say, Phil?
Yes.
And then the amended motion was that the Bike Fest go to get another 25,000 to take them to 75,000.
Yes.
So the motion on the floor is that the offshore nationals get funded at 100,000 and then Bike Fest get funded at 75,000. I just want to make sure we're clear on what the motion on the floor is. So that's the motion on the floor.
Let me,
So wait, just one second. All right, so the motion, the maker of the motion, I want to make sure I'm clear, and then I want to make sure Mike is finished, and I've got a whole lot more people that have comments.
I was going to retract the motion and restate it.
You can just accept the amendment.
I could accept an amendment, but really, the one thing I want to add to that is that we recommend that as long as staff can take this back and the organization that's running the event can show that they do meet the criteria they're looking for.
Okay.
In other
So-
words, they've got TV now for boat races.
So
If
we have- we
the Bike
have-
Fest can show more marketing than just that, then
Okay, so I want to, we've got another amendment to the motion. This amendment takes the offshore nationals to 100,000, Bike Fest to 75,000, with the caveat that they meet, that they present and demonstrate that they will increase the marketing for Bike Fest where they've to go beyond the local region, and that offshore nationals demonstrates that they have the media that they stated in their letter.
Correct.
Is that what your motion is stating?
yes, and it's up to
So-
staff, and it'll move forward from there.
Okay, so that is the new motion. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that one.
Second.
I'll read, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Tricia, that's right. Thank you for the point of order. Tricia, do you agree with that?
Yes, second that motion.
Okay. So, is everyone clear what the motion on the floor is? Pardon me? We don't have public comment now. Sorry, Frank. I love you.
wanted to make this comment, that the extra 25,000 will cost me an extra 50,000 to put on a TV show, because to put on a TV show, it costs $75,000. Okay, so that's not
Okay.
really gonna do me any good.
So, hang on just, Frank, just a second. So, if you have television, that qualifies you for the whole amount, is that not correct?
Qualifies you for consideration.
Okay, so if you have television, that will let you go from that 100 to 150 for consideration, correct?
If we deem it's like an acceptable broadcast, there's certain criteria that it needs to meet.
Okay.
But conceptually, yes.
Okay. So the motion as it stands, now I'm going to ask right now, that said, the motion as it stands, is there going to be another amendment?
Given what Mr. Chevis just said, he's going to turn it down maybe, the extra 25, it's not going to do any good for him to have that, so.
I'm not gonna turn it down,
Okay,
okay? But I don't want the TV, okay, either. I mean, the 100, great. You guys do a great job, number one, okay? And it just costs me more money if I only got $25,000 to
So unless you get, if you,
So, Frank, I love you, but we're out of order, so we have the St. Pete Powerboat Grand Prix at 100,000. They were reduced from 150,000 because their attendance was down, if I'm correct, but they do have television. And they do have extenuating circumstances. So, we now have a motion on the floor. That's what I can work with. We have a motion on the floor at 100,000. Bike Fest at 75,000, if they can demonstrate that they can meet the criteria on the marketing and the television. But the television, and that's where it gets a little muddy, if that's the caveat, because the television might have been able to take them up. And that's interesting on the St. Pete Grand Prix. I think he had a compelling story on the storm. If that's what the criteria was the attendance was, that the numbers were bad, the fact that it was a hurricane where people were supposed to evacuate, I'm not sure that that's the right reason to penalize them on theirs. So, because I hadn't had a chance to have my conversation yet before all the amendments came to the floor. So, you know, I know the offshore nationals really, really well. I know there was a chance that we could have gotten the internationals if we managed this really well. There could have been a chance we could have brought those too. So, you know, they are big events. So, all the information, you all have a little more information than you had before. Are we staying with the motion that's on the table with the two amendments?
let me just restate it one more time.
Okay. So I'm going
I
to
would say-
restate the motion on the floor, just for clarification. Is the offshore nationals go to 100,000, the Bike Fest goes to 75,000, under the caveat that they can demonstrate that they meet the marketing needs for more than just radio for Bike Fest, and that Frank demonstrates what he gave us a letter stating is accurate and factual.
Right. What I'm going to change to is that I'm going to erase the amounts and let staff decide how much more they're eligible for with the new information on marketing or television. And if the boat races can get 150 because of that, then they can get 150. If they can't get more than that, if they can get 100, then he gets 100 if he wants it. The Bike Fest will get whatever they can demonstrate they're qualified for, to the staff. So the amounts,
Okay.
I'm taking the amounts out. I'm just saying, the motion would be to staff to relook at those with new information and make their decision. And whatever they come up with, if it's an increase, then that's
So
what we'd agree to.
can I make one question to Brian before we accept that motion?
Sure.
Brian, is your position going to be that staff recommends what's on this paper and that you're going to keep to those recommendations, and then this board will make and then if this board makes additional recommendations, are you standing by your staff are sticking to these numbers, and it's the board that's making the advice to go to a higher number? That's an important caveat.
We will be taking to the Board of County Commissioners the Tourist Development Council's recommendation, but we will also have in the backup information how we got to that point.
So what I'm hearing is when he goes to the board and he gives this presentation, he's going to submit these recommendations from staff. So if you want the numbers to go up, then those have to come from this body to say, we want an additional for this one and for this one. So that's my understanding. Okay, correct? Okay.
What I'm stating is I want staff to make the final decision. I just want them to look at those two items with new information to see if they qualify for more.
Yeah, I understand that, but Brian's telling you he's going to go to the commission meeting and he's going to stick to his recommendations that he's making to us. So if we want to change them, we're going to have to put a number to it.
Phil, if you're making that as a second amendment, I think if we vote as a board on the second amendment, yes or no, then you are going back to the amended first motion, and it appears that, you know, there were dollar numbers set in that, and that would clarify what you take. Is that correct? No.
I'm not sure about that statement. So what my understanding is Brian is going to come to the Board of County Commissions, and he's going to say, the staff recommended whatever this total was, minus that 100 and, right? The total's not on here, it's on here. So he's going to come to the board and say that they're recommending the the $1,865,000 for these events. There is remaining $135,000 that we want to take to a second process. That's what he's going to say. And he's going to say, however, the TDC said that they wanted to raise this one and this one. And so then the Board of County Commissions is going to either take the recommendation from, the whole recommendation from the board, or they're going to go with Brian's recommendation and not give that money. That's how it's going to be presented. Am I correct?
We're going to take, very much so. I'm going to take them your direct recommendation, but I'm going to also let them know what our recommendation was to you.
So in other words, we have to give them a number.
Yes.
So if you want to raise Frank more, then that's the number you got to give me. Or if you leave it where the motion stands, then that's the motion we're going to vote on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does everybody understand? Are we all on the same page? We all understand that? Okay, so now, do you want to, so with
Go
that
back to the
said, you
120
don't want to put that fourth amendment on?
25 on each one.
Pardon me?
Like we had originally 25 more for the boat races and 25 more for the,
Okay, so we're going to
Thank
stay
you,
with the
Breakfast.
motion as it stands. There's no
Yeah.
additional amendment. Okay, discussion. I see Clyde.
Sorry, I'm going to muddy this more, and it's partially based on your comment on number 4, the St. Petersburg powerboat. Question for Craig, was the recommendation to decrease that by 50,000 from the traditional that they've gotten based on last year's attendance, which we hear is reduced from the storm?
The data score definitely did suffer, but it was also due to their marketing plan. It was pretty weak. So he has a combination of factors there.
Okay.
And we would recommend like kind of revisiting their marketing spend as part of that next discussion with them.
So I would like to put that on the table to consider moving them back to the 150,000.
Okay. So
there's
you're
2 boat
making,
races in
you're
question.
going to make another amendment.
Yes.
So we have an amendment to the amended amendment to add the St. Petersburg Grand Prix boat races, $50,000
Yes.
to 150. If they can demonstrate, I'm going to put words into your mouth, and you're going to
Yeah.
tell me if I have your amendment correct.
Yeah, based on a comprehensive marketing plan that meets the criteria.
Based on a comprehensive marketing plan that makes the, okay. So, do I have I have a second on that one? Okay, so, the amendment as it stands is Bike Fest, 25,000, Offshore Nationals, 25,000, Grand Prix boat races, 50,000, if all three can demonstrate the marketing plan that meets the criteria. Are we all clear on that amended to the amendment to the
their
amendment?
marketing plan or their application.
Right.
And Madam
It's
Chair,
changed
if I just may also, I've got to do back of the napkin math, but we've got to make sure we have enough funding there because it's in your tourist development plan.
Okay,
We
so
might
you
have just
got-
gone over the
you got
135.
Yeah, you have 185,000, 135,000 left.
Okay.
That would be
Just-
$100,000, so that leaves you 35,000.
Perfect.
Okay.
They've got to qualify for it, though.
And they have to qualify for it. So is everybody clear on the amendment to the amendment to the amendment to the motion? Okay. All right. Russ?
And this does approve the staff's recommendation
Yes.
with the amendments so that he can move forward
Yes.
in August.
Yes. Okay, Mike?
Ready to vote.
Anyone else have comments,
Roll a question.
questions, discussion? Okay. We can do an all in favor? Ready? You want to roll call it? Okay. Then we're going to roll call it. We're going to start with Clyde.
Yes.
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 Aye.
And yes, Mayor Rector?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I could have done a all at all, but, okay, so that passes unanimously. Good luck with all of that. Good luck to those that came and asked for more funding. I hope you can meet the criteria to get that extra funding. Okay, so we're going to move on to Craig. Thank you so much for all your hard work. You've done a great job. We're going to move on to D, the IPW update with Rosemarie. Okay, we'll come back to D. And is Terry here for finance? Okay, so we're going back to D? All right. Rosemarie, it's great to see you.
See, my apologies. We had to use the ladies' room, so excuse us. So, good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today. So Andrea and I are here to give you an update on U.S. Travel's IPW that was held May 5th through the 9th in Los Angeles. So who attends IPW? This year's show had 5,700 delegates from travel organizations from across the globe. During the business appointments, Visit St. Pete Clearwater staff met with international and domestic leisure buyers, media, Visit USA committee representatives, and marketing and technology providers. Visit St. Pete Clearwater staff that attended included Brian Loeck, our president and CEO, Jason Latimer, our director of public relations, Andrea Gable and Liz McCann from our Latin America department, Jane Brooke from our UK and Scandinavia department, Axel Kaus from Central Europe, and myself. These are just a few highlights and benefits from the show. Visit St. Pete Clearwater had 201 scheduled meetings with reps from key markets including the US, Canada, UK, Central Europe, and Latin America. Current partners and potential partners coming together in one location to discuss leisure business for St. Pete Clearwater. Jason had a table in the media marketplace and met with more than 30 journalists as well as content creators from 9 different countries. And as a direct result, we have one journalist visit the destination, and Jason is working to secure additional earned media coverage. Visit St. Pete Clearwater also received added value at IPW by setting up a lunch meeting with Brand USA to discuss new initiatives and marketing opportunities in key international markets. And Brian attended the Chairman's Circle reception that honors top-selling tour operators. And we had 3 hotel partners join us in our aisle: Jamie Hauser from the Sheraton Sand Key, Melissa Bonacore from the Holiday Inn Harborside, and Judy Maccabee from the Belmar. Each of these partners had their own appointments to discuss business over the 3-day show. So we wanted to provide you with a snapshot of international visitation. Dee Dee Haggerty, our market intelligence specialist, provided this data from Oxford Economics. And this is visitation in the thousands. As you can see, Canada is still far and away our top market, followed by the UK and Germany. The forecast for the remainder of 2024 takes Canada past 2019 numbers, and the forecast for 2025 takes the other 2 markets past 2019 numbers as well. Here are some key takeaways from the markets that we met with during IPW. So in Canada, we had very productive meetings with key Canadian tour operators, including Air Canada Vacations, Travel Brands, and WestJet Vacations. And we're working with all 3 of them on marketing opportunities for this fall. We also met with Canadian Jet Lines that just confirmed service to PIE from Toronto this coming November. We're working with their team to contract properties in our destination to package with flights. We also met with Casey Canaveri, the Brand USA rep in Canada, and Leanne Galtz with Vox International, which is the Visit Florida rep in Canada, about upcoming sales initiatives. Daryl Bogus from my staff was able to travel with Brand USA on their first ever Canadian sales mission this past June. And we had a meeting with Air Miles Rewards Program. Visit St. Pete Clearwater ran a campaign with Air Miles through Brand USA February 12th through March 25th, and the campaign was very successful. There was a large over-delivery of impressions, which resulted in 332 bookings during this 43-day time period, with $231,000 in trackable revenue. We are in talks with Air Miles about future campaigns. Out of the UK, Ireland, and Scandinavia, Jane reported that this year at IPW was very, very positive, with 60% of her appointments being with new prospects that are either looking to expand their Florida product offerings or are new to the region. A long-awaited campaign with British Airways Holidays was confirmed and has since launched in the UK. An exciting new prospect with an Irish tour operator packaging hotels and cruises out of Tampa. And positive news from Virgin Holidays with visitor arrivals, increasing to the destination with forward bookings looking very strong. Out of Central Europe, Axel said Florida is the third most popular destination for Central European travelers after New York and California. Central European tour operators expect to recover the pre-pandemic number of travelers by mid-2025, with Germany and Switzerland being the strongest markets for St. Pete Clearwater. Of course, there's also lots of excitement about the new daily nonstop service on Delta from Amsterdam to Tampa, starting in October. While the vacation intent by German travelers to the U.S. decreased in 2023, Florida maintains its high position and its priority for German visitors. Meetings with key tour operators at IPW have resulted in 3 FAM educational visits coming to St. Pete Clearwater. Lufthansa, Discover Airlines from Germany, Connect Reisen out of Switzerland, and Travel Trend out of the Netherlands. And VSPC continues to evaluate new sales and marketing opportunities in both domestic and international markets. Currently, we're evaluating Calgary in Western Canada that has new service on WestJet to Tampa, and of course, the new service on Delta out of Amsterdam. We evaluate innovative shows and missions that could provide a vehicle to introduce our destination to a fresh audience. We also look to our partners at Visit Florida and Brand USA for insight into trends that they see happening. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Andrea for an IPW update on Latin America.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrea Gable, the Latin America Senior Sales Manager, and I am pleased to inform you that Liz and I had a very wonderful and successful 2024 IPW Trade Show, meeting with international product managers and decision makers. We also had the opportunity to engage with the Latin American media from Mexico and Brazil on the second and third days of the shows when they allowed to walk the trade show floor. We focus our appointments towards the Mexico and the Brazil markets. Mexico, we conducted 21 appointments with Mexican tour operators, focused on the opportunities presented by the Aeromexico daily flight, and we continue to feed them information about the destination, content, and assets. We negotiated new destination packages with landing pages, opportunities for package in advertising, virtual call center trainings, and collaboration for in-person training for travel advisors. I'm happy to report that we already started all those trainings successful since the May IPW show. We discussed familiarization opportunities for 2024 and 2025, and we continue to communicate with the tour operators to welcome those familiarization groups to the destination. We reinforced the VIP welcome bags for the advisors' top clients visiting the destination. I'm also happy to inform that we started to deliver those welcome bags and track where the Mexicans are staying in our destination. Brazil. The Brazilian delegation was the second largest international delegation this year, only after the UK. We took full advantage of the connecting with existing clients and making new ones in 36 appointments. We negotiated new destination packages, advertising opportunities, in-person trainings, and our participation in Florida Days trade events where the operator invites the top crucial operators, and our Brazilian rep can educate them about our destination and in-person training presentations. It's important to know that the largest two operators in Brazil, they always offer at least once a year one of those Florida Day trade events, and who are welcome to participate with the trainings are the suppliers, the Florida suppliers that works with directly with the tour operator. We negotiated incentive campaigns with operators to increase the number of professionals completing our destination virtual training from the Brand USA and Visit Florida platform. And actually, this action goes together to both markets, Mexico and Brazil. Some key takeaways for attending the 2024 IPW Trade Show. We are in contact with crucial operators in both markets, and they continue to create packages and promote them to the clients, the travel agents. And we continue with communication, like I mentioned earlier, in providing content and assets, and also training the clients in our destination. I had a meeting with Visit Florida Trade to align collaboration for the new fiscal year, including trade show participation, sales missions, and the 2025 Florida Huddle, pre- and post-familiarization tours from Mexico and Brazil. It's important to know that Visit Florida we will only have one booth in one selected trade show in the next fiscal year, and they announced it's going to be in a NATO trade show, Bogota, Colombia, beginning of next year. I had a meeting with Visit Florida PR to align our department with upcoming co-op programs and trade media visits. I am confident in our position, and I thank you, BVK, and the advertising team for all the assets, the videos, and content that we have to offer to our Latin American clients. I would like to present now for you to share the 2025 IPW Trade Show locations and dates in Chicago, Illinois, next year on June 14 and 18. And I would like now to open to see if you have any questions for us.
Do you have any questions? Okay, great presentation, great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We're going to go on to the finance report with Terry.
Good morning. Terry Tuxhorn, Vice President of Finance and Administration. I'll be brief. You've all got the report in front of you. According to the report, we've collected $61.2 million in tourist development taxes. In May, we collected an additional $8.5 million, making the current collections a total of $69.7 million. You'll notice as you go down the sheet that travel, direct sales, and advertising are under budget. And I'd like to point out that we currently have $2.6 million in expenses that are currently in process of being paid, half of which are for advertising expenses. We also received a budget amendment in May that included an additional $395,000 for capital consultants, and as Steve Grimes mentioned, $6 million for additional marketing. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? No? I like, oh, no, we got one. Chuck.
Just
I'm
a
sorry, I
real quick
didn't see
one.
you.
Terry, great. I love the numbers. We used to, at every meeting, get a spreadsheet like this, which was a breakdown by month, starting at the October fiscal year, of the sales and then what we paid the tax collector. So I know you've surmised it here in this, but I would love to get that again as part of this package.
That's in here.
Oh, okay. I don't have it stapled in here, so that's exactly what I was looking for. Okay.
It's another report.
It's buried in here somewhere. Okay. Thank you. Never mind.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Terry. Next is destination metrics with Eddie Kirsch.
Good morning. I missed talking about numbers and data last month with you guys, so happy to be back here and doing it again. We'll start out kind of by looking at the month of May, and then we'll look at sort of our spring season as a whole. But this past month, or for the month of May, our hotel occupancy was modestly up from last year to 71.6%. That's a 2.9% increase from last year. Our hotel supply continues to be higher, of course, than it was last year by almost a percentage point, 0.9%. Our vacation rental occupancy was down a little bit from last year. We saw that on a variety of sources. We get that information directly from a number of property management companies, about 100 representing over 3,000 units. But in addition to that, we can see some scrape data, and we also saw a similar or vacation rental occupancy trend. Our daily rate for hotel was slightly up this past May to just over $190, 0.7% up from last year, and vacation rentals was slightly down by about 3% from last year over those properties that we see. Looking at ourselves in relation to our Gulf markets, we had a pretty great May compared to some of our neighboring counties. We had both a positive ADR and a positive occupancy was something that not a lot of our neighbors saw. But when we look at our southeastern markets, we do see that the Miami sort of area really did have a great month of May as well. So we're not unique to the rest of the state of Florida for having a fairly good month. We often look at these kind of as monthly reports, but obviously there's a lot of different factors for when a visitor comes and visits. So when we look at it sort of over the spring season, every year is going to be slightly different. Easter will always be at a slightly different date. Some of our major events and festivals that we have throughout the spring season shifts every once in a while, and that can draw numbers up in one month and numbers slightly down in another month. But when we look at the spring season, March through May, we are really close to what it was like last year. And last year, again, was a record-breaking year for us. So we actually had an increase in our demand by a little more than half a percentage point. But when we look at our occupancy and ADR and why those numbers are a little bit down, our supply grew faster than our demand ever so slightly. So there's these very small differences between last year and this year. But for the most part, it looks like our spring season has really normalized, and we continue to see a really positive, strong spring season. This is looking at some of our markets that we're seeing the visitation coming from. Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater is our top in-state market. It's actually one of our highest markets overall. So we do see a lot of regional travelers come and stay here. Orlando is our next highest, and then Miami. So, these major Florida markets are where we draw a lot of our visitation from, but we have visitors come from all over the state. Looking at some of our out-of-state markets, those top markets are really the major metropolitan cities in the Northeast and Midwest. So, we're really looking at these big population centers from places that we know draw visitors, and those continue to be strong markets for us. Things that we kind of keep our eye on are places like Dallas, Charlotte, Houston, where we're really seeing almost like a evergreen market that has less variance depending on what season we're in, but are seeing some good visitation from these larger metropolitan areas that are outside of the Midwest and Northeast. And then to sort of round out this list, we see some of the always great for us markets across the Midwest and Northeast. So places like Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cleveland, we still see great visitation from all these markets as well. Looking at the May, so jumping back to the month of May for a moment, looking at that, we have received just over $8.5 million in TDT collections for the month of May. That's a 5.8% increase over last month. What I like to see too is that 2022, 2023, 2024 were all May months that had over $8 million in TDT collections. So it's been very consistent that we've had this sort of ballpark strong number for us. Looking at year-to-date, we are right almost where we were last year. And, again, last year was a strong record-breaking year for us. We're just a smidge below $70 million in TDT collections year-to-date this year. Really, really close to where we were last year. And the growth in this month was really all across the county. So we continue to see this rise in vacation rentals, and that being strong for us. But Clearwater, St. Pete Beach, St. Pete, all these places had growth from last May. Just sort of jumping into what's being planned in the future, we have about 30 projects. That actually might be up to 31 now. I'm sure that Dee Dee will correct me. But we have 6 that are currently under construction, 12 proposed and 12 in final planning, well over 3,500, closer to 3,800 total rooms over the next few years. When we look at the list of what that looks like, for the most part, our projects that are this year or in 2025 are currently under construction. Headed into 2026, we have a number of projects that are in their final planning stages. And then onward, we have mostly projects that have been proposed for us. But this is kind of the list of what we're seeing in that hotel pipeline. That's all I have for the destination metrics. Happy to take any questions for you guys.
Any questions? Councilmember.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Eddie, I don't know if this is a question for you or Doreen, you might be able to answer it. I appreciate you putting the occupancy versus supply for hotel, but I was curious if you had any insight into what vacation rental supply looks like compared to years past or frankly even months past.
It's a question I think that is being almost taken at a larger level. I know that Kevin and his team from Code Enforcement that's something that they're looking at as well. Brian, do you have any comment on sort of the?
I would defer to Doreen.
Gee, thanks. I think that it in years past has been very hard to quantify. I mean, it's just been kind of an unregulated, even though we're licensed and all those other things, but you had so many different factors, and VSPC, quite honestly, didn't have the metrics, the data to be able to compile that info. So I made note, you made the comment of now they're reporting, and most of that is through key data, I think, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Through who? I'm sorry.
Through key data?
Oh, through key data, okay.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and just I heard you say that there's approximately 100 companies reporting people that are going into that pipeline for us, and then that represents about 3,000 rooms is what you said. So, and that has been an ongoing conversation about vacation rentals, about some of the third-party sites and how you can amalgamate that information. But, I think now we have to rely on the reporting companies that are going into VSPC, and that's giving us a much bigger, better picture.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my request would be, Eddie, is if, I know we're just starting to get that data, but if we could track it and show it, I think that would be helpful for us just to see what that looks like countywide. I know we're trying to do it for our city, but I think it would be helpful as we look at these things. Obviously their revenue continues to go up. Their ADR was down. That makes me think their supply was up higher than it was in the past based on a lower ADR and a lower occupancy, but their revenue continued to grow. And so, anyway, I just think that's helpful for us to see. So if we are able to start tracking room count, that would be helpful to see on a monthly basis. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any additional, Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Eddie, great report, and thank you for the detail on the hotel pipeline. 2 questions. One, the hotel at Clearwater Bluffs, Is that the new one that is coming in with, as part of that whole mixed-use complex?
I'm probably not the expert to say exactly what that project looks like. This is more of a report that we receive. So we haven't always, visited or talked to the builders or the people who are responsible for the construction themselves.
Okay.
Yes, that's the one on the bluffs.
Thank you.
And I believe they may get started on that late this year, hopefully.
Great. And then finally, how difficult would it be to get this same list, the same data, looking at Hillsborough County as well?
That's something we can look into.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any additional questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I always love your presentations. We're going to go on to number 6 with update from Brian.
Well, I will be extremely quick because we've already kept you too long. I will want to give an update on beach nourishment. And as far as the current project that's underway down in Paso Grill, the county was waiting for the Army Corps of Engineers permit to finish the second half, the northern portion of the Paso Grill project. They received that last week. Kelly and her team, they're rocking and rolling, and they are projected to finish that Paso Grill nourishment on time. I also we talked about the budget amendment for 2024. That was approved by the Board of County Commissioners last month. But update on the 2025 budget process and where we are. Last time we met as a group, you all recommended the proposed budget from staff with a strong emphasis on that additional $6 million in advertising. Since our last meeting, I presented that to the Board of County Commissioners at their budget work session, and yesterday the county administrator included that in his proposed budget to the Board of County Commissioners. So over the next 2 months, the Board of County Commissioners will have some meetings, some briefings, and they will adopt a budget in September. So we'll keep you up to speed on that. Number 3, the tourist development, the local plan. At the joint meeting, there were a number of staff recommendations that we put forth for consideration. This board all agreed that those were good ideas. So did the Board of County Commissioners. But we didn't really get into that discussion. So I'm moving forward with taking those and discussing those individually with commissioners and to take those to them for adoption of the tourist development plan. I think step 2 would be further down the line, having a more holistic discussion about the tourist development plan, specifically allowable uses that the state statute might allow, but that the local plan does not. We talked about Aeromexico, Delta, and Rose briefly brushed over it. I don't know if anybody caught on, but I suspect that we will have another international direct route announcement within a week, so stay tuned. Number 7. So we have new staff, and our newest staff member is joining us today, and I wanted to give her the opportunity to introduce herself. So we have with us today Patricia Overway, who is our new contracts manager. And Patricia, come on up and say hello and introduce yourself. We're really excited about this. Terry, our Vice President of Finance and Administration, obviously there's a lot of contracts that we have, and having Patricia on to manage those contracts is really going to be a big help and make us more efficient.
Thank you, Brian. Madam Chairman, and all our distinguished individuals, it's a pleasure to be here. I started my career in government with Palm Beach State College in 2001. 4 state agencies later, I am now with the county. And I have to say, this is the best place to work. It really is fun. It is local, but obviously this has a global reach. From what I'm hearing, I started in May, so I'm just getting my feet wet. But from what I'm hearing with the elite projects and the international travel, I'm going to be very busy, and that is perfect for me. It's a pleasure to join the team. I love working with Visit St. Pete Clearwater, and I'm very happy to be here.
And a couple more introductions. Craig, if you'd like to make your way up and introduce who you've got with you.
Yeah, so another program that my team oversees is the internship program. So we've been blessed to have two just rock star interns this summer. I want to introduce to you Dylan Kraft over here to my left, and Trey Ameno behind me. Trey's going to give a few words, but and also want to give a shout out real quick to Brandy Bolden from our team. She's the lead on the internship program. She's traveling to Toronto for an activation, but take it away, Trey.
Thank you, Craig, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time today. Thank you, Brian, as well, for the opportunity to intern here at VSPC. Dylan and I are seniors at the University of Tampa. We've just had a great experience this summer. We started in May, and we'll be here till the beginning of August. We've had a great experience and learning so many new things with VSPC. We've worked with the Film Commission, also with the Brand Activations Department, doing logistics and operations for events, and also learning more about government and VSPC's role in that. And then I also want to thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak this morning. Thank you. Thank you.
And last but not least, I just want to make sure that everyone on the TDC was aware, but yesterday at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, the chair of the commission did present us. They proclaimed next Saturday, July 27th, as 727 Day. So it's official now. Mark your calendars, spread the word, and we look forward to seeing you all out there on 727 Day.
Okay, and I want to, Brian, I know you think you're done, but I'm not going to let you be done. Several months ago, we had a discussion about looking into getting Michelin to come in and look at some of our restaurants. Would you mind giving them a little update on kind of where we are on that? Because I didn't want it to just go away after we talked about it. So, so Brian, if you could give just a little quick update, or somebody give an update?
I don't know why my staff's pointing at me. Oh. Oh, I got it. I apologize about that. So Michelin, there were some articles in the paper over the last few weeks, and so there was some interest, and folks asked, you know, why aren't our restaurants reviewed by Michelin? Some of you will see over the weekend, Travel and Leisure did vote name St. Petersburg as the #1 food city in America. So I repeat, the #1 food city in America, Travel and Leisure. So speaking of things that are official, that's official as of last weekend. But Michelin, the way that program works is they've got to come to you and invite you into the program. Historically, they had not been in the United States. Over the last few years, they have come into the United States. They came into Florida about 3 years ago and partnered with Visit Florida, as well as 3 destinations. And so we are working with Visit Florida to pursue and highlight some restaurants in the destination and put our case forward for why we think we're worthy. And we have Michelin star restaurants here in St. Pete Clearwater. So stay tuned on where that is. I'll be sure to keep you all updated on that.
I just didn't want that to go by the wayside. We did talk about it. There was interest in it, and so Brian is moving forward, and I just wanted to bring an update. Was there something you forgot?
Yes, there was in my notes. I went right over it, but we have one other new. I couldn't figure out why Caleb was pointing at me, and I'm like, well, she's not involved in this. So, but number 2, as far as new staff, our Vice President of Business Development, Catherine Reagan, I'd like to call her up, introduce her. This is a key position for our organization. Some of you on this board actually helped with the process in finding Catherine. So she's going to be overseeing all of the business development departments, and we are extremely excited to have Catherine on board.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everyone here, for giving me this opportunity to lead the business development initiatives. Visit St. Pete Clearwater is an amazing organization with a dedicated and talented team that I'm so proud to call my colleagues. It's an opportunity to really come into an amazing destination and really look at how we drive business development and more visitation through sports and meetings and film and leisure. My personal background is in sports and live events. I have almost 20 years experience in sales and marketing in those industries. So I'm extremely excited to bring that over to tourism. And on a personal side, I'm obviously honored to represent this destination, our amazing beaches, and then of course what Brian just mentioned, but now the arts and culture and everything else that we have to offer. Looking forward to the future and how we bring more people here to St. Pete Clearwater. So thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any updates? Phil?
Not an update, but I've been sitting here thinking about what we passed, and I'll make it brief. Since we threw in the St. Pete boat races up to the 150,000, I think it's only fair that the Clearwater boat races, I said 100,000, but if they have the TV, it gives them the possibility of getting up to 150. So I'd like to amend that motion to say that all three of those get up to the maximum of the category they're qualified for.
Oh, okay, wait.
Okay? So if they demonstrate that
So,
they're qualified for
it's not going to be an amended motion. You're going to make a new motion.
Okay, sounds good.
You're going to make a new motion. You want us to go back to elite funding, and you want to make a motion to put the cap, and I'm going to put these words in your mouth, if that event can meet the criteria that would take him to maximum funding.
Up to the
Let
maximum.
me just get his motion right.
Up to the maximum.
Up to the maximum, if he can demonstrate that he could meet the criteria, that event can meet the criteria designated in the
Right.
in the guidelines. Okay,
What she said.
okay. Is that clear? Does that make sense? The
original
offshore
three events.
offshore nationals. Has offshore nationals ever gotten the whole maximum 150? So they have never in the past gotten 150. I think they've always gotten 100. So just
Because they didn't have the TV.
because they didn't have the TV.
And
So,
100 they got 100 in the past because that's what the cap was, then we lowered it to 75.
got it. So I have a motion to take offshore nationals to 150 if they can meet the designated criteria based on the process. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Do we have a second? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
there's no
All
vote.
right, so we only have
Yeah.
35,000 left. So to get them, but we don't know if the other amendments are going to get what we said, because they have to meet those criterias. So the maximum we could give him would be 35 if the Bike Fest and the Grand Prix, the St. Pete Grand Prix boat races, get their money. There's only 35,000 left.
Well, the staff has to decide how to divvy that up. That's what I'm saying. All three of them have to demonstrate that they qualify for an amount, and then the staff has to decide up to what they can give them. So if budget restricts that, then they have to determine how to parse that out.
Okay.
So back in the staff's hands, I just want to give them the opportunity to represent with their new information and let staff do the job, and then they'll sign, seal, and deliver that through Brian to the BCC.
So based on the funding we have, I know you want to take them to 150,000, but based on the funding we have, it would only take them to 135,000.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's why I wanted to make the motion for all three that you stated, that they resubmit the information they need, and they are eligible for up to the full amount of their category, as long as budget allows for it.
Okay.
As long as they
so-
demonstrate. So they may not demonstrate that they can get,
Right.
75 for the bike race, or they might, or bike fest.
All four of them, if they all meet the criteria to go the max, there isn't enough money to take them to the max.
I understand that. So
Right.
staff has to decide what percentage they can give them because they're now out of budget.
I don't like this.
Okay. So do y'all understand that motion? So it's a motion to have staff relook at those three projects. If they meet the criteria to hit the maximum amount, then staff determines how it's divvied up to that maximum amount, which would consume the $135,000 that was left. Is that your motion?
I believe so. It's up to the 135. They have to split it up between the three.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear on your motion.
Yeah.
Okay. So they have to meet the criteria, and then if staff meets that criteria, then they have to divvy that up to get them. You know, we have two people that walked out of the room knowing, based on our votes, that to the commission it was going to go to 150 and 75, and then.
If they meet the criteria, well.
Right, so they walked away not knowing that this is going to happen. So we've got that going for us. So do I have a second to, I have a second from Mike. Any discussion?
Second from Milton. Yeah.
I have a point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Can we replace a vote with another vote without taking it out?
I'm going to ask our
Okay,
attorney.
Yeah.
So interesting point. The TDC has not adopted a parliamentary Robert's Rules of Order, so I think that, and generally in the past, the chair has acted as the parliamentarian. I think as long as it's, every member of the board has their opportunity to be heard, I think we can use whatever procedure makes the most sense. So I think,
Okay.
yes, we can just replace it.
I just wanted to make sure because on ours, I don't think we'd be able to do that, so.
Right, no, we're a little loose
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
We have fewer rules than you do.
And then I have a comment wherever I am in the queue.
So go ahead, and then we'll go to Mayor Gaddis. I think we got Mayor Rector, we got Chuck, we got Clyde. So, Councilmember, you go first, then we're going to go to Mayor Gaddis, then we'll go to Mayor Rector, and then Chuck Prather, and then Clyde Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate what we're trying to do here, but I'm very skeptical to vote for this after we voted for it and everybody has left the room, thinking this is how it's going to be. I can get to this number and that's the end of it without having those members here, all three of which spoke. I'm very hesitant to change that without them being here. And so I'll listen to my colleagues, but that's why I asked for a roll call vote, so we could have figured that out. So I'll listen to my colleagues, and I certainly, that means a lot to me, what everybody else thinks, but I'm hesitant as of right now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mayor Gaddis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did not quite understand why it was, the Clearwater event was only awarded half of what they asked for. Now I do understand better, and I would agree with Mr. Henderson that I would like to see the playing field leveled for both communities and both events. I will vote for this with one caveat, and this is something that Brian can take to his team, is if all three events fully qualify, that I would like to see both of the boating events split the difference to where it's even for both events. And I think that would be a fair way to split the money up, basically.
Okay. Mayor Rector.
Yeah, I concur with what Mayor Gaddis just said. I don't understand why essentially sounds like a similar event in St. Petersburg is getting more funding and preferential treatment over the event in Clearwater. And again, this is an event in Clearwater that takes place right directly in front of many of the hotel rooms that generate the tax revenues that we're spending from here. So I agree that it surprised me a bit that got layered in there at the end of a previous motion. And I just want to see folks treated, somewhat fairly or equally. And I think the motion that Mr. Henderson's put on the table gives the staff an opportunity to balance it a bit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We spent quite a long time redefining what elite levels meant. We spent a lot of time on that. And my understanding is 75 was the cap. He used to get 100, but under this new criteria, he wasn't televised. Therefore, 75 is where he ended up. He lost the $25,000 because that's the most the category elite level 2 would support. He asked for $100,000, which was over and above the guidelines, and we discussed it. In my opinion, we said we supported that extra $100,000 because it's not televised. We still were going to make an exception in this rule. In the side comments, and like you said, a little bit out of order, but we're a little looser here. And Frank talked about, well, I could advertise it, but it's going to cost me $75,000. And now we've gotten to the point where, well, let's give him another $25,000, get him up to $150 to level St. Petersburg, when it's not televised right now, and maybe he can get it televised, maybe he can't, but I still go back to it's not televised. He didn't want to televise it until this meeting today. He wanted $25,000. We approved the $25,000. Keith Overton needed $25,000 to keep his project afloat. We approved that $25,000. And now potentially we're going to water that down. So I'm just not in support, unfortunately, of this late new amendment, or not even new amendment, just a new position. So for that reason, I'm going to vote against it.
Clyde.
My concern is also that there's no guarantee this is it's a production of the event, not a coverage of the event. And there's no assurance that it's going to be picked up by a regional network. It's not nationally televised. It's hopefully could get on TV.
Okay, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian, is it possible when we contract with these events that there is conditional funding? In other words, if they get a TV contract or if they improve their marketing reach, that they can receive what we approve?
Yes, that is possible, and that's how we operate under all these. So like when we ask for whatever's approved here at the TDC and whatever's approved by the Board of County Commissioners, that's an up to. But we could do an up to of whatever we want, but if they don't deliver the minimum requirements, they're not going to get it from an agreement from us with that funding in it.
I think I can solve the concerns that are around the table. That is that you review the Bike Fest and the St. Pete boat race first, and whatever's left over is available to the Clearwater boat race, since those other people have left the room. That answers the budget problem. If there's more than, if the boat races in St. Pete get the whole 50 and the Bike Fest gets its 25, there's only, there's less than 75 left. And that would be available, whatever that amount is, would be available to the Clearwater boat races if they're approved, if they could demonstrate that they've met the criteria.
So is that amendment to your motion?
Yeah, I'm just saying, just putting in those, that they can get up to their category amount if they can demonstrate that they qualify for that, but the Bike Fest and the St. Pete boat races will have first opportunity at the remaining budget, and whatever's left over after those two are reviewed, then Clearwater has the opportunity to demonstrate that they can get up to 150 if there's 150 available. But if there's not available, then they can only get up to what's available.
Okay.
So that solves the people out of the room.
Are you hearing that as an amended motion? I'm hearing that as an amended motion.
Okay.
So
So Gertis, does that satisfy your needs?
it was Mayor Gaddis that seconded?
I'm sorry.
Who was the seconder? You did.
I did, yeah.
I thought it was Mayor Rector, actually.
Couple of us did, but I did.
Okay.
And I agree with what he just said.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand the motion. So the motion is the recommendations we made in the first round, that as long as Bike Fest and the St. Petersburg their boat races, if they meet if they have the ability to adjust their application to demonstrate that they can meet that number, adjusting their marketing and their attendance, they get what we said they would get, because we already made that motion. And same thing with Offshore Nationals, they would get the 100,000. If by chance they could not meet those numbers and did not get that extra money, then Offshore Nationals would have the ability to get, if they can meet the criteria, that 35,000, or if the others don't make it, they could get the 100, all the way up to 150. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So what we voted on first goes first. And if they don't make the criteria, Offshore Nationals can have what they didn't qualify for. If they do qualify for it, then the Offshore Nationals would get 35,000. The additional
They
35,000.
get whatever's left in the budget, which is.
Whatever's left is right.
It's
So,
just 75
so,
between the two.
so there's no motion there to take anything away from what was already voted.
Correct.
Just
As
want to
long
make
as they
sure that
qualify.
we're clear. So it was already voted, nothing can be changed about that. The bike goes to 75, boat races in St. Pete go to 150. Offshore Nationals has the opportunity to get an additional 35 unless those two cannot qualify for the additional money.
And not the 35, just the remainder of the budget.
Right.
Is this more than 35?
Well, it's not the remainder of the budget, because if the boat races in St. Pete didn't qualify and they only got 100,000, we can't give them 85,000
You give them
more.
up to their qualified amount.
Up to the qualified
Based
number.
on the remaining of the budget.
Okay. So just so we're clear, I'm going to say it again. The numbers that we voted on already, those stand unless they do not meet the criteria. Right?
Correct.
Now, if they do not meet the criteria and the Offshore Nationals do meet the criteria, they can be considered for 50,000 more
Up
from what
to-
we already agreed to. Up to 50,000 more. Okay.
Up to the 150.
Got it. Okay. Is that clear? Does that make sense? Okay. Any more discussion?
Yes.
Doreen?
Just some final comments. I have some concerns about the fact that I know the events, how they've been structured, the levels, all of this work that's been put in behind this over time are the guidelines that the staff has been working with. And I personally feel it's a little unfair to say to them, well, you figure out how to divvy up the pot. I don't think that that's the way that, I know that they're making the opinions and doing the evaluations based on the guidelines that have been tweaked and improved. But I do think that asking them to, if they meet this criteria, you're going to take this money, and then there's going to be, I'm concerned about the lack of completing the budget with the dollars that we set out. And also that all of these approvals must meet the criteria. So as they go through, and even though all the ones that we've approved, and it looks like they will, in the final contracts, they have to be able to perform and show those, if that's the correct interpretation of that. So that's my opinion. I do feel that it's kind of a, for lack of a term, loosey-goosey approach to how the staff is supposed to figure it out, and I don't know that that's what we need to be doing. Thank you.
Councilmember Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Based on what Brian said earlier, if we don't make a recommendation of a number and a specific number, they're going to recommend what's on this sheet, is what I heard earlier from
Right.
Brian. And so leaving it open like that, the recommendation that is on here is what's going to go to the Board of County Commissioners without a recommendation of a specific number. Is
Well, that's what the motion's all about. We're asking them to look at those three again based on
I know, but we
information.
tried to do that earlier, and Brian said if we did that and left it open, then this is what would go to the Board of County Commissioners.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Well, what will go to the county commissioners today, before this, whatever happens right now, is Brian's going to present, and he's going to say, the staff recommended that sheet, I put it away already. The staff recommended this amount of money funding to go to these events. The board made a vote and recommended that we add 25,000, 50,000, and 25,000 to those three events.
Correct.
That's what he's going to present. And then the commission is going to deliberate between the staff recommendation and you, and this board's recommendation.
Right.
So that's why we looked for a number, because that's actually how it would go in the presentation to the board.
That's not what my motion is.
But it's,
The motion was to kick it back to staff, let them meet with those three organizations again and review their new information. And if they do qualify, that staff has the ability to raise them.
I know, but that's what we tried to do earlier, and
I know,
Brian.
but it's not what we're doing now.
no,
On the
just
third
for-
event, that's what you are doing.
Just
Bill.
for clarification, each one of those events have to submit more information based on our last motion. They have to submit more information to staff to show, because Frank didn't have TV before this happened. And so I guess what we have done, as Doreen said, we're changing the rules. And what we have done is asking staff to say, let them, now that we know what they're missing in their application, let them tweak their application and give more information to get that extra 25 and that extra 50,000. So that's already part of what they have to do. So that's already there. That motion is already done. We put that caveat that they have to demonstrate, so they have to resubmit to staff the difference in the numbers, the difference in the marketing, and just demonstrate how they're going to do that marketing. So they already have to do that. So what I'm hearing Phil say, and I'm still uncomfortable with not giving a number to the commission. I'm uncomfortable with it. But what he's saying is, if when they do what they said, that it should be considered if somebody fails to provide that information to the comfort level of the staff, that they really can produce those numbers and those marketing numbers. He's saying that if one doesn't, but one can, they should be able to get the maximum, is what he's saying.
I understand the motion on the floor, Madam Chair. All I'm saying is, based on what Brian said earlier, by leaving the Clearwater boat races open without a recommendation, specific recommendation number, is that it would revert back to what's on this sheet. And if that's not the case, then that's fine, but that's what I heard earlier. Do you want to comment, Brian?
If it's helpful, the notion that we're going to go back to the two events that are not the Clearwater offshore races, and if they qualify, they're going to qualify. We simply did not recommend the maximum funding in the categories. They're going to qualify. They meet the guidelines, so they will be funded at the max level based on the qualifications. So I think if that removes ambiguity on what would be left over, hopefully that will help you all provide a number for the Clearwater race.
So that would provide a number of 35,000 for the Clearwater race. So instead of 150,
60.
we already recommended the 100,000. So the only balance that was left was 35,000.
That's fine.
So then he would get 135, not 150.
Correct.
Okay, so,
I'm fine with that.
no, okay, so are you going to change your motion to increase the national offshore race to 135,000 versus the 100,000 we approved earlier? So now it's not contingent on anything else. You're just making a recommendation to give offshore nationals the balance of what's left to get him closer to the max if he can meet the criteria.
If they qualify,
If they qualify.
that's fine.
So the seconder was
Bruce?
Mayor
Yes,
Rector.
I second that motion.
Okay, so the motion on the floor has been changed to have no impact on the other two events, just to increase our recommendation from 100,000 to 135,000, which would then take up the balance that was in reserve left over. Okay, so
Yes.
the motion and the seconder agree with what I just summarized?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? Mayor Gaddis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the only item that would be missing from this motion is a reasonable amount of time. You needed some sort of a timeline for this new information to be submitted. Obviously, it's going to take Frank and whoever he's working with to inquire if they can even meet the qualification. So realistically, what sort of timeline would you hold them to?
I would just say we're going to move forward with the recommendation, knowing, again, we'll take that to the Board of County Commissioners, but they will have to have that secured before we would pay that out.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Doreen?
Comment. For those individuals that may not have met the threshold, we had very active participants who came and basically pled their case and stated facts. But does this open us up as a body making judgment calls on guidelines that we have that are in place that we're, for lack of a better term, being asked to arbitrarily change because we had some physical presence here and people, made good arguments, but what about, are we going to have disgruntled other people who may not have met the threshold based on the evaluations that our team did with all of their best judgment? So I just caution us with that for future.
Any other discussion? And I did count this out. There were 33 events funded. 19 of them did not get what they asked for. We've just added 2, so that makes 17 of the 33. So 16 got what they asked for, and maybe now with this third one gets more than they asked for, but not what they asked for. So just FYI, there are, 17 other agencies that did not get everything they asked for. So next year, I would expect 19 agencies coming here to advocate, right? So, so good point, great point. And we also made the decision that we really want to bring in elite events that are going to be like the Royal Rumble, elite events that we know are going to bring in, and that's why we made the rules more stringent, because we want them to go above and beyond and do the media and do the marketing and bring in the kind of attendance that we're looking to elevate up. So great point to bring all that up. But we do have a motion on the floor to take the offshore nationals to 135 versus the 100 we offered before. So on this one, I'm going to do if there's no more discussion, any more discussion? I'm going to do a roll call vote on this one as well. So, Clyde?
I vote no.
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 Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Bruce?
Bruce?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we have 5 yeses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 noes. Well, that's an interesting one because I would be a yes. How do we do a tiebreaker? Okay. He's changed his vote to a yes. That takes it a 7 to 5? I'm a yes, 7 to 5. So, okay, 7 to 5. I hate being that one that is the tie on there, but there you have it. So your motion passes. You can inform Frank that there's a chance, but he's got it. He does have to produce. And I know he gave us stuff today. I got it last night, so he gave us stuff today and hopefully that's going to meet the criteria. So when they write the contract, everybody gets what they want and they meet their criteria. So with that done, is there any other further discussion for the good of the group or updates, and yes, Amanda.
Just, not discussion, just to point out, we've been talking about the elite events. I just want to remind everyone that the statutory requirement that we have to meet here is that in order to pay for these events, is that the events must have as one of their main purposes the attraction of tourists as evidenced by promotion of the event. So when we're looking at all these criteria, we're trying to get to that statutory level. And also, of course, we're trying to meet all the other goals that we're trying to reach as the county. But I wanted to make sure that we sort of circled back and understood the reason that we're trying to make sure we meet all these criteria is so that we're spending the money with the statutory use.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion?
I apologize.
Phil, go ahead.
I said I apologize for taking up so much of everybody's time, but thank you.
Well, that's what we're here for. Anybody else? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Danny, wasn't that a great first one?